A new nation was created to protect people from the dangers of the cruel nature. This nation was called Blue Moon. Her ruler was a wise and kind man who ruled the country with justice. The citizens of the Blue Moon lived carefree, in harmony under his patronage, until one day a terrible thing happened. The ruler of the Blue Moon was assassinated in a coup d'etat by plunging a knife directly into his heart. Soon after, rebellion consumed the entire country. The land became a blazing inferno, filled with hatred and the ashes of the dead. Many people lost their future because they were killed by cold blades. When people lost all hope because of the rebels, a man in a red mask appeared and killed the rebel leader and ended the war. He became a folk hero who brought peace back to everyone, and they called him the Red Man. An elderly man who was a school principal sat in his office teaching history to children. 100 years after the war ended, one of the students asked why, if the war was long over, they were now living in Slumberland and not Blue Moon. Her desk mate replied that it's because, in the story, they come across as the villains. The director pronounced that many of them already knew that they were descendants of the rebels who had once nearly destroyed the Blue Moon. After saying that, he looked around the classroom, which was full of students, and said that despite their past, they should remember that the 9 are innocent. At the same time, not everyone listened to him attentively. Some students were asleep. The principal slammed the book shut and placed it on the table and said that was the end of the history lesson. It was lunchtime and the school children decided to help Mr. Kim. This teacher was in the wooded area of the school. He sat on his knees and picked berries in the bushes. Soon he heard a multitude of children's voices calling for him. It turned out that the kids had come to help him so they could all go to lunch together afterward. Kim stood up and with a wave of his hand called out to the children, showing them where he was. After a while, the children were already eating soup from a plate. The same student who was inattentive in class was unhappy that beans were served again for lunch, at his roommate telling him he should just eat them. But the boy named Haljean irritably said he would never touch them again. Then his classmates said he couldn't be that picky, but the boy shushed them and asked them to be quiet. Teacher Kim came up to him out of the blue and told him that he needed to eat beans and he could explain why. One of the students said he knew why. There are people who live in slums and starve to death every day because they have nothing to eat, so they should be grateful to their school for the food and eat it without complaining. The teacher replied that it was the right thing to do and also the beans would help them grow healthy and big. Then he noticed a student named Paxson eating fallen beans off the floor. He called him over and told him he couldn't eat off the floor. He could get sick if he ate dirty food, so he had to spit the beans out into his hand. The boy hesitated and said there were none. The teacher screamed in horror and asked if he had swallowed them, but the principal and his students were meanwhile eating their lunch in peace. The man named Kim, although he had an unusual name, had an ordinary job as a teacher in a slum. It was the only school that was in the slum and it also served as another shelter for children. The teachers not only taught the children but also took care of them and put them to bed. In this school, there was only the teacher, the principal and 9 children. To Kim, they were a real family. The teacher also did all sorts of work around the school, either related to repairs or to the students' livelihoods. Once again, having finished a small repair of the school, the teacher wondered what the children were doing now, and the children played the hero, the Red Man. The Red Man was always the boy, and the girl who played with him also wanted to be the Red Man, but the boy wouldn't let her do it as he thought he was faster, so he would be the one to play the hero, but the girl said he should be more considerate of others. Suddenly the boy's mask was ripped off and turning around he saw the teacher. A girl and a boy whose name was Teshin asked for the mask back, because they were just playing heroes. Kim replied that of course the game was good and fun, but didn't he tell them to be careful when taking other people's stuff? He then saw a boy named Maru sitting alone in the classroom and suggested that he go play in the playground with the boys. The guy agreed, since he is a senior after all. He went with the kids to the playground, who were excited to play soccer. The boy was jumping and running with the ball, offering Han and Nuna to play soccer. Kim shouted after them to be careful, and he looked at the mask in his hand and said it needed to be cleaned up. For a while, the teacher considered the mask. He gazed intensely into her eyes, as if he wanted to see the face of a true hero there. Until suddenly I heard the principal's voice behind me saying that he was looking for his mask, and it turned out he had it. Kim turned around, and the principal asked if Teshin had taken her. The teacher confirmed his hunch. The principal thoughtfully said what he liked about such a creepy mask. He would take it any chance he got. The teacher gave him the mask back and said that creepy or not, it was just a regular mask. After which Kim realized it was the principal's favorite mask and apologized to him in case he suddenly offended him. The principal assured him it was fine. My principal wondered why he thought so. At that time they heard children's voices coming from the street, as the boys were playing soccer. Akeem explained that when he touches the mask, his heart beats more often, it gets hot, and he can't understand why that happens. He gets the feeling that he could turn into an angry bull. The director laughed simple-mindedly. After all, Mr. Kim never got angry, so it's hard to imagine him as an angry bull. Kim supported his laughter as he was in agreement with him. The men then decided that it looked like it was going to rain and they needed to take off their clothes, which were drying outside. Soon they were already putting things in the basket. While taking them down with a clothesline, Kim looked up at the sky and said that it was very cloudy now, and it had been sunny just this morning. The director suddenly said that he's been hearing strange rumors lately. Kim asked in surprise, and the principal explained that there were rumors of men in suits kidnapping children, though they are unlikely to come to such a place where they are, as there are only mountains around. But as guardians of the children, they should be careful and warn them in advance. The teacher replied that while he would do so. In the meantime, the boys were playing soccer. Haljin hit the ball and tried to score a goal. Maru, who was standing on goal, calmly caught the ball and saved the goal. Haljin lashed out at his girlfriend, who rebuked him for never hitting the goal after so many attempts, ordering her to shut up. Taesjin shouted that he would bring the ball and rushed to the school gate. Near the gate, I suddenly noticed a stranger's car, and stopped in surprise. As the teacher and principal expected, it wasn't long before it started to rain, but the men managed to collect the laundry before it started raining, thanks to the help of a girl named Soyoung. They thanked her profusely for her help. The girl replied that it was no big deal. It was nothing. Just then they heard stomping feet down the hallway. Someone was running fast. Then a childish voice called out to the teacher and the principal, and Kim became wary. Then Taeshin ran in, who was very much agitated. Kim took him by the shoulders and asked him what happened. Maybe he fell on the soccer field and hurt himself. But the boy replied that some strange men grabbed the others. Hlan, Nuna took them all away. The teacher interjected that were all the boys really taken by strange men. Then he heard a strange man's voice saying they didn't have strange men at all. Kim looked at them and asked who they were. A man stepped into the light and said it was a pleasure to meet him. He was a scientist sent by the Blue Moon, and his name is Noggle. He came here to find exceptional young talent to help the city. He was indeed lucky to find 9 kids in this slum. Kim, who had his arm around the boy trying to protect him, asked what he was talking about. Could they be the same kidnappers rumored about? The teacher suggested. Noggle asked, repeating himself so he would understand. After which he said he was right. Not trafficking, and now they will kill them and take all their children. His partner came up to him with all the other people and told Dr. Noggle that he had asked him not to just reveal his identity. The doctor replied that he couldn't help himself. The man said it's amazing to think that kids can run fast, and ordered the men of steel, capture them no matter what. The thing is, the principal ordered Kim and the students to run away. Whereupon he stood in front of the bandits and said they would not go through him. The bandit replied that was dumb, pulled out a gun and shot the principal. The director was shot in the chest. Abonite asked what he expected, trying to stop his men alone, after which he said he was tired of such dramatic scenes, so let the director stop wasting his time and just die. With those words he fired a few more shots. A few used shell casings fell to the floor. The bandit was still standing with his gun in his hands, and the principal and teacher Kim lay wounded on the floor, the children sitting next to him crying and trying to reach them. When the bandit saw this, he told his helpers to grab the children and get out of here before dawn. The helpers said yes and grabbed the children, who started to resist but couldn't do much about it. A short time later, 3 cars pulled away from the school, and the teacher and the principal were still lying on the floor. Suddenly Kim saw some kind of glow in his head, wondering what it was. He never expected to be able to experience something he had only heard about so far, and honestly, he didn't think it could happen to him. Because no one came to this godforsaken place. It was just them. It was paradise. They could wander around the ruins that were left after the war, and they thought they had finally found happiness. But that dream was shattered. Just one day, Kim thought it was an incredibly nightmarish night. The director stepped up and said it's all real. Every day thousands of people die in the slums, so he built a school in the mountains to protect the children. But he didn't succeed. So, it's up to Kim to protect them and save their future. With those words, the principal took out a red mask and put it on Kim's head. Then he fell down without strength next to the teacher, who had a red mask on his face. Kim lay motionless for a while with a mask over his face. Then he opened his eyes. His pupils filled with anger. That anger was growing more and more with each passing second. This continued until he rose fully possessed by the mask. Meanwhile, the bandits who left after 10 minutes decided to split up. Not everyone understood why it was necessary to do this, so they started to resent it. but Head Rim explained that because they were being watched and so they needed to split up. The man was unhappy that he would now have to be responsible for the child, but nevertheless he had nowhere to go and put him in his van. When the child got into the car, the driver asked if they were ready to go, but the man asked to be given time to smoke. The driver was not happy, as this has been quite common lately. Then a stranger came to him from the darkness and told him that smokers don't realize the danger they are in. The man looked at the stranger with astonishment, and he kept talking and said, "What kind of a fool invented cigarettes?" The driver gripped the steering wheel, looking at the rearview mirror, after which he yelled out what was going on. Meanwhile, all that was left of the bandit was a wet spot. The red man crushed it, with words to the effect that "You can't smoke here. What do you want?" The driver screamed in horror. "What is this?" He had absolutely no idea what was going on. Then I pushed down on the gas pedal as hard as I could. The car sped off, but the red mask easily stopped it too. He was screaming so much, how dare he, kidnapping his children. For which the red mask pulled the truck. The child looked out of the van, holding his head as it was hurting him. After that, he saw what was happening outside. At first the child's eyes snatched up the man's hand with the gun, and then he saw that the man was being held by the throat by a man in a red mask. At this, the monster asked where his children were and the driver asked who he was. Maybe he was a monster. But the child was surprised to recognize the red man. The red man heard the driver's words and loosened his grip, after which he yelled in a low voice that he was the children's teacher. The last thing the driver saw was the red man's fist approaching him. One's social role is predetermined from birth, so the child abductors considered themselves to be someone in whom the noble blood of the blue moon flows. That is why they always hammered it into the heads of their countrymen at the meetings, so that they would imprint it in their minds forever. And the people listened and heeded them, because they realized that they would never be different again. Such events were held quite often in Blue Moon. People listened attentively to the speaker behind the podium and believed he was saying the right things. Meanwhile, the red man tried to remove the mask, but it wouldn't come off. He was desperate. He didn't understand why it wasn't coming off, although he was pulling it as hard as he could. He made tons of attempts and incredible efforts to remove the mask, but finally came to the conclusion that he'd rather have his neck broken before he took that mask off. He was about ready to explode with rage. In addition, because of this mask, he was always evil. Here the red mask heard a child call him with the word teacher. He turned around and saw his student in front of him asking if he had really turned into a red man. The teacher shouted to hell with the red man. Didn't she think he looked like a hero now? He screamed that he was just a monster. A monster. The girl whimpered and said she was scared. The teacher asked her to stop crying and calm down. He himself continued to be angry, trying to pull off that mask. And the girl watched him with horror and continued to cry, but she was already calming down a little. The teacher lay face down on the ground in front of her and said he was sorry, because no matter how angry he was, he shouldn't have taken it out on her. But he's still out of it and doesn't know what to do about it now. So he decided to ask the child to give him time to calm down, and the girl calmly agreed. A homemade cross and a shovel were stuck into a small fresh grave. In front of her sat a red man, probably grieving. He sat there thinking to himself that he didn't understand what the principal was thinking at the time, why he had decided to put that particular mask on him. He remembered being young and lying on the ground in the mud. There were guys around him who were stronger than him. They attacked Kim, saying that they had warned him that they would finish him off if he saw him here again. One of the guys noticed that he used up all the energy on him even though he's nothing, and the other noticed that he doesn't even react when he gets beaten and is disgusted by him. Eventually they made the decision to leave since you thought he'd had enough. And the guy was left lying motionless on the ground with his arms spread out to the sides. Suddenly a shadow loomed over him. Opening his eyes he saw a bearded man who said he looked pretty bad, whereupon he asked how the guy was going to survive in such a cruel world. The boy replied that there was nothing he could do about it, and the man remarked that as long as he was alive he would always be in danger. But he was still so young, he had his whole life ahead of him. Afterward, the man said he purely by chance knew where the guy might be staying, so he should just trust him. But when the guy found out where he'd brought him, he was horrified. It turned out to be the school principal, and he wanted him to become an elementary school teacher and look after the kids. The principal objected to his outrage that it wasn't true that only teachers could teach. Just as it was not true that not every mature adult could become a teacher. Kim countered that he didn't really mean that. The whole thing was that he didn't realize how miraculously he could become a teacher when he had been a beggar all his life. He had originally followed this man without a second thought because he had nowhere else to go, but now he realized that he had to get away from here as soon as possible. He never got to say it out loud. so the man wished him good luck this year, and Kim realized he was in no child's play. Then with some time he ventured to ask the director why he had chosen him for the job. After all, there are many people living in the slums who are poorer than he is and more in need of help. The principal hummed and said he realized something when he looked into his eyes. He said Kim was perfect. The man was surprised and laughed. And the principal went on and said that he's also weak and kind like a fool, but that's also a plus. After all, having experienced what it was like to be helpless, such people would never mistreat others. And indeed, while he was working with children, he never once deceived them. So the principal realized that if he had Kim as a teacher, he would start to feel a kinship with the kids, and that's the only reason why he's still here with him and the kids. And the principal trusts him and believes in him, and if something happens to him in the future, he knows the kids will be safe. And the kids really loved their teacher. And Kim realized that the kids needed this school. Therefore, his disciple Soyoung stood in front of him and cried. She cried and begged him not to leave because it was dangerous. Kim had to agree with her that it was indeed dangerous. Besides that, he had to find the others. Kim said, taking the girl in his arms, as they are all their shared precious family, and just as she worries about him, he worries about the other children. Though it will be hard, but after all, she's always helped him, so trust that she'll be able to handle it when he gets back. The girl wiped her tears and hugged him. She said he had to come back. Kim promised Seo-young that he would definitely come back. Meanwhile, nothing much changed in the slums. One of their residents was sitting in the street collecting alms when he was approached by an unknown man whose face was concealed by a hood. The man raised his head at him and a surprised look came over his face. And the stranger asked if he had seen any passing trucks here last night. The beggar said fearfully that he hadn't seen anything. He was sorry, but he really hadn't seen anything. The stranger went away upset, grumbling to himself that it was a pity that they had not passed through here, because he had to catch these two alive. And the beggar, looking at him, thought that it was none other than the devil. And Red Mask was walking and thought that suits and trucks were an unusual sight in a slum where you can only feed and clothe yourself, so probably not involved in anything more than just kidnapping and theft. So he decided to look into the red light district. Suddenly it hit him and he even stopped at such a thought. He remembered how the scientist, when talking to him at the beginning of the attack, had said the Blue Moon had sent him. And he came here to find exceptional young talent that could help the city point, so he reads. They were lucky to find 9 kids in a backwater like Slumberland. And since he himself had admitted that he was a scientist sent by the city of the Blue Moon, Kim concluded. Yeah, so these are unusual criminals and he needs to figure out what this town is up to. So the Red Mask decided that he needed to go there right now. Meanwhile, patrolmen of the Blue Moon were carefully guarding the gate at the entrance to the city. Soon they got a countdown that the white truck that went to the slum had not yet returned. The policeman was surprised that the truck had gone to the slum, but his partner told him that they were supposed to bring lunch. The police officer said it's unlikely they realize what's going on there anyway, so he doesn't think the truck could have been attacked by anyone. However, he was annoyed that now he had to look for these guys, because this was not the life he had dreamed of. Besides, he didn't understand exactly what he should do now. Then they saw someone heading toward them on the road leading into town. They decided it was another beggar and asked him if he was tired of begging, that he had even gone so far as to beg here too. Whereupon they demanded that he stop immediately. When the stranger came close to them, the policeman said that this was the main gate of the Blue Moon City and asked the beggar what he was doing here. The stranger replied that he was looking for a white truck. This surprised the police officer and he asked why he was looking for a white truck. But instead of answering, the stranger snatched the report paper from his hands, in which he read that the gourmet truck was supposed to arrive here with the kids. The policeman pointed his finger at him and yelled for him to give him the document back immediately. The stranger said okay and poked him with the paper right in the eye, after which he dropped him on the ground and rubbed the paper against his face. Other police officers rushed to his aid, and the stranger, who was of course a Red Mask, asked them where the truckload of gourmet day kids was headed, and he would give them life if they answered him. But the policeman drew his gun and fired with the words die. But it didn't work on the mask and he brushed the policeman aside with the words that when someone is talking, they shouldn't interrupt. He then asked the remaining cop if he was going to shoot him too, but the guy said he wouldn't and took him to the truck. But there is one problem, he added. The gate to the gourmet store is closed. This huge gate only opens from the inside, so you have to wait. They only open at night when the moon is in the sky. And to himself, the cop thought, if he could quietly near reinforcements while the mask waited, it would be over in his favor. Well, Red Mask said he couldn't wait. Then, in one easy movement, he set it aside from the gate, thus making way for himself. The gate itself, he began to kick out. Soon he managed to swing them open, and all the while the policeman was in his hands and wriggling like a worm. But as the red mask opened the gate, he shook the policeman and told him to stop fidgeting and look forward. He pointed him to the town and asked him where the high-end store was. 100 years ago, after the rebels failed to take over the country, they were exiled and forced to live in this poverty to pay for their sins. When these people began to fight against each other to protect what little they had left, their cohesion frayed. Soon everyone began to think only of themselves and their paths drifted apart. This is how factions with their own style began to be created. And the slums came into being. Trendy neighborhood, the red light district and the cemetery. They all had their own streets and their own space. Whereas, the descendants of the heroes who saved the country and its people, running a huge corporation and living in skyscrapers built on the ruins of the old city and enjoying safety behind the high walls surrounding them. They were like a symbol of great glory and wealth. They were considered the founder of Blue Moon City. Red Mask. When I got to the city of Blue Moonati, saw it with my own eyes, I was surprised that this city is considered a dream for people, because all the houses standing around were already almost destroyed. Red Mask said disappointedly, "This city is huge, but it's just ruins." And because he had heard that all the buildings in Blue Moon City were built of gold, the policeman confusedly said that it was probably a fairy tale. Although in fact, originally there were walls in front of the city. Then came the ruins, and in the very center of the city were luxurious skyscrapers. This was all the Blue Moon City, in front of which were the slums, the red light district and others. And it was all because no one lives in the areas near the walls because they can't be rebuilt, the policeman explained. Although, companies like the gourmet food store bought land here. So if Red Mask wants to see the beautiful buildings, he needs to go to the center of the city. And he thought to himself that this was the problem. Since this place was abandoned, there was no one here to save it. So he decided to take a chance and take the Red Mask to the center of the city. He began to tell him where to go while leading him himself. They went straight and then turned right, but the guard was deliberately deceiving him. So when the girl appeared beside him, he wasn't sure if he would manage to stay alive. And indeed she explained to him that he needed to turn left if he wanted to get to the gourmet store. The guard was startled by her words, and for good reason, as Red Mask got angry and attacked him. He was staking his throat and asked if he really had gotten the wrong road. The guard said he had made a mistake and asked him to forgive him and let him live, and he would try not to make any more mistakes. He will definitely take him to the right place, he promises. Red Mask thanked the girl for her help and asked who she was. The girl replied that her name was Panda. She was a middle school teacher in a trendy neighborhood, and judging by his clothes he was from the slums himself. She added, looking at the Red Mask. Kim was surprised. Such a neighborhood. And the girl said it was no wonder he didn't know about it, since the slum was pretty far away from them. She explained that the Finger Chain's headquarters was in the neighborhood, then asked who he was. Mask replied that his name was Kim and he was a junior high school teacher in a slum. When the panda heard that, he was delighted. Then she said that since they had the same job and were going to the same place, they should go together. After that she asked if she could go with them. The guard didn't like the fact that another stranger was going with them and wondered how she got here in the first place. After all, trespassing with a puff of smoke was a crime punishable by life imprisonment. The guard realized that his life was practically over. Now he wouldn't live for letting so many people into the city. Meanwhile, the panda and Kim walked together, and the girl asked him why he was so bald. She chatted enthusiastically with him, completely unafraid of him. Meanwhile, one girl among the kidnapped children was awakened by the sound of dripping water from the faucet, the drops from which were hitting the bottom of the sink. She felt her bare feet touch the cold floor. Looking around, she didn't realize where she was. There were several bags on a pedestal next to her and carcasses of some kind of meat hanging from the wall. The girl remembered that she was returning from school as usual when a white truck suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Some strangers lured her and her sister to the truck, but it looks like they took her sister to another place, since she can't hear her around. Besides, she realized that her hands were tied and she couldn't see anything because it was too dark around her. Suddenly she heard footsteps outside the door, and tensed as she realized someone was coming towards her. The knob slowly turned and the door opened. A huge man, a real bulky man, entered the room. The girl looked at him in horror, and he growled something and walked past her. He headed toward the bags that lay in this room, after which he lifted one of them with one hand. Then he began to gnaw on the bag with his teeth. The girl looked at it and couldn't believe her eyes. The dead face of a man emerged from the sack. When the girl saw this, she tried to scream for help, but she couldn't do much because her mouth was taped shut with duct tape, and the bully continued to lift the bags as if nothing had happened. She tried to move as far away from him as possible. There was no way she could take her eyes off the bags, which were bloody. She figured there were probably other people here who were also wrapped in bags and stacked in this room. She was once again alone, surrounded by wrapped corpses. Then she heard footsteps again and thought the man had returned from more sacks. But it was some guy in a mask who excitedly said he'd found her. He asked if her name was Ray, as he needed to save her. Whereupon the guy unzipped his hoodie and revealed his finger chains. The girl realized that he really wasn't dangerous, and the guy told her that the structure of the building was too complicated, so he was late. But she shouldn't worry, he would take her back now. The girl looked at him incredulously, and he said he understood how scared she was to be here alone, since she was still a child. The girl mumbled, trying to say something, but the guy asked her to be quiet. Looking into her eyes, he said they should not be discovered. Here they felt as if someone was at the door. It was like someone was watching them. And indeed the guise of this bulky man who smelled an unfamiliar man would appear. The guy tensed as he too sensed someone was here. The guy realized it was the monster. There was a reason he had a bad feeling about it. And the monster said that since it was a man, it could eat him. With those words, he opened his huge mouth. Meanwhile, Kim and Panda approached the window of a gourmet store. The guard said, "Here they come." When they entered the store, the salesman greeted them cheerfully and then started telling them that they sell food with unforgettable taste and at an affordable price. Besides, this store is their main store. The panda was excited to see the assortment and said that they had everything: meat, fish, vegetables, and it was her first time in the main store. And indeed the counters were bursting with all sorts of food. The vendor assured that they were selling products that had passed stringent quality checks. And recently, to expand their business and create more branches, they signed a contract with Grande Foods. After which he asked Panda if it was her first time here, and the girl confirmed it. Hearing this, the salesman said he was sorry, but they are not accepting new customers today as the store is only open for VIP guests or companies. But if one of them is a regular customer, how about coming back tomorrow? The man asked. The guard picked up his idea and said that indeed the gourmet shop is closed on Mondays, and today is Monday. But the girl said it would be difficult for them to come here next time. Then the manager came out to them. The manager said that since they had already arrived, we should quickly sell them what they were interested in, since it's not like they could kick out their valuable customers. And the salesman scratched his head and said that because of store policy, he couldn't allow it. But after that thought and said so would serve them. Just let them say what they were looking for. Panda thanked enthusiastically and asked if they sold human meat here. The guard was surprised at such a question and said he had never heard of human meat before, after which the guard was truly horrified. He yelled at Nuna, Panda, asking what she was even talking about. Who would buy something like human meat from them? And Kim realized that since she was looking for human meat, she must be one of those cannibals. The salesman said that of course they sell human meat. All the customers in the store amicably exclaimed if this was true, and the salesman calmly replied that their customers don't ask such questions. Afterward, other people on staff said they looked very suspicious, and the butcher asked where they came from, whereupon the entire staff appeared before them in all their fearsome glory and asked them who they were. And Red Mask thought, how could they have forgotten about him, who they were? After all, even in the slums, the millennials have nothing. They don't resort to horrible things like cannibalism. Kim couldn't stand it and appeared before them as the Red Mask, then yelled in a voice that was not his own, "Where are they keeping his children?" He was enraged and completely seemed to have lost control. Nuna told him to calm down, because as far as she knew, the gourmet store didn't consider the underclassmen as food, and even if they did kidnap them, they didn't kill them right away. The girl added. Kim looked at her disapprovingly, but started to calm down, and Nuna said that here she needed to hurry up as she was just looking for teenagers. The guard looked at her in disbelief and asked if she was sure of her decision, and Kim looked at her with a dose of disgust in his eyes. After saying that it didn't matter all that much, what mattered was that they were here. Nuna thought it was the mask-changing Kim, and noted that he seemed to transform depending on his mood. And Red Mask worriedly said that perhaps the children are terribly frightened because they are in an unfamiliar place and expect someone to rescue them, so they should find them as soon as possible. The salesman interjected into their conversation, saying that he seemed to realize that they were the guardians of the children who had been brought to them yesterday, and he wondered how someone like the teacher had managed to get here to them, and after which he stated that their children were high-end products, so they wouldn't let them take them away. The next thing you know, the salesman ordered to kill everyone who came here. But Kim didn't look like he was going to give up just yet. He stood with his hands already in a fist, fully prepared for battle, after which he used the power of his mask and said they had nothing to apologize to him for. Then the entire staff with cries of fear tried to run away from him. but Kim was more agile and faster. He easily threw them all away with a single hand movement. His enemies scattered like peas and he shouted that he would take his children no matter what. Then the remaining staff pounced on him, agreeing that they must attack him all together, or they would not be able to defeat the Red Mask. And indeed they rushed to attack all together against Kim. So each of them had some kind of weapon, some had a knife, some had an axe and the like. They enjoyed inflicting wounds on the mask, but they were immediately covered in red threads. Seeing this, the crowd was very surprised as they expected him to bleed out. The crowd looked at Red Mask's body in amazement and wondered what kind of thread was that was appearing at the site of the inflicted wounds. Kim said that even bullets don't hurt him, so he certainly won't die from any knives. And it seems, he added, that they didn't know it. The crowd screamed fearfully and realized that Red Mask was an immortal and his wounds were self-healing. Hearing that, Nuna realized why he was walking here all alone, and the guard said he looked like the devil. Afterwards, the guard asked the girl what they should do now, and Nuna answered that of course they should help Mr. Kim. With those words, she rushed to his aid, and the guard followed her leisurely, as he wanted no part of this at all. Then the guard thought he didn't seem to be any help here, and then he began to be torn by contradictions. On the one hand, he thought why he should help the violators, and on the other hand he could not be on the side of criminals, since he is a city guard. Meanwhile, Nuna was already closing in on the butcher, who was waiting for her attack. Noticing this, the girl began to proceed somewhat cautiously. Then with a spin around she kicked the butcher right in the head, thus breaking his nose and making the man very angry. He also wanted to lunge at her in response, but she attacked him first. A guard watching the fight and seeing the defeated enemy told the girl that she was doing well. Nuna laughed and replied that the streets are a pretty dangerous place, so if you want to survive there, you need to know how to fight. Besides, to protect the children, the teacher must be strong. She added and suggested that the guard finally deal with all their enemies, after which she looked at the crowd running towards them and hesitated. The girl stood thoughtful for a moment, and then she started to run, the guard standing as if he had been stumped, a little hesitant and not expecting her to do that. After which he followed Nuna's example and rushed away with all his might. The gourmet store was a basement restaurant. It served sumptuous meals to rich people, and the staff was accomplished and well versed in the nuances of haute cuisine. The main course of their one meal for tomorrow was to be scallop steak. For this dish, the chef created a new recipe sauce especially for their establishment. But when a gourmet chain store manager named Hialo tasted the dish, he declared that it was disgusting. And not only is it disgusting, it's also tasteless. Also, the dish is not fresh at all. The manager was furious as he had a very important guest expected for tomorrow, whom he had specially invited to this restaurant, and he was surprised that this was the highest level of cooking that Blue Moon could offer him, and all he wanted was for the guest to be able to enjoy a taste he had never experienced before. "Is it so hard to do?" he asked the cook. The cook in turn apologized in confusion, and Hialo said they brought a girl here recently, so what about her? The cook replied that he was sorry, he didn't want to disappoint him, but she was picked up off the street. Hialo, wiping his mouth with a napkin, asked what he meant. After all, she should be the main course. Then he demanded to bring the girl. He should give a proper reception to their guests. The girl herself was sitting in the same basement, and next to her was the mangled body of the guy who had come to rescue her. Meanwhile, Red Mask continued to trash Blue Moon's staff, and he did it practically with one hand alone. It was such an extravaganza that even the guard and Nuna stopped in delight looking at it. All these people were practically flying over Kim, and the survivors started screaming that he was a monster. One of those was unlucky enough to be attacked by the Red Mask. At that, he told him that those who eat people, that's who the real monsters are. Then Kim suddenly barked out a curse. He said he couldn't ask the money holding the children. Behind that mask his body was moving on its own, but Nuna reassured him and said she knew where the children were. Red Mask was surprised and asked how she knew. And Nuna laughed and said that she had a finger chain patch and with it she could find out their location using telepathy. Red Mask replied that she knew strange things, and the girl was surprised by that, and then explained that only the handsome head of the fashionable neighborhood is capable of it. Since he has superpowers, he puts them into the things he does, so that's how telepathy works. Suddenly Nuna stopped and said that it looked like they had found a place where they were keeping the kids. The girl rushed there and Kim asked her to wait for him. Meanwhile, a girl, Ray, was brought into the restaurant with her hands tied behind her back. She stood in the middle of the room, in front of practically everyone in the restaurant, and there was bidding on it. The shin was being sold for 5,540,000 yulves. The girl thought that was a lot, and the buttocks cost 9,130,500 yolves. The girl stood in thought, looking at the restaurant customers. Why are they doing this? After all, she's just like them, she's human too. Cook told the manager that since teenagers are hard to get, it's priced unbelievably high. Wallow replied, rubbing his hands together, that's what he was talking about. Their restaurant sold everything but belly and organs. Every part that is purchased at the gourmet store is cooked by chefs and served to customers. Here the host announced that this was the end of their actin, and now he was presenting a fine performance by their butcher. A man entered with cleavers in his hands. The girl turned and looked at him in horror. Afterward, the closer he jogged, the lower she sat on her knees. She thought, she didn't want to die like this. If she died, then what would happen to her sister? Plus, then the death of the man who tried to save her would be meaningless. The girl thought in despair. If only someone would come to save her. If only someone would come to save her. And then, as if hearing her call, the walls of the place shook. Soon they split and Red Mask appeared in front of her. He pulled the butcher and everyone else away from her. The girl sat without moving and couldn't believe her eyes. Wallow was doing the same thing, and Ray was surprised to think that the Red Man had come to her rescue. However, it was hard for Raya to believe it, because the Red Man was always considered just a fairy tale, a hero who lived 100 years ago. And the Red Man asked Nuna if they had really gotten where they needed to go. All the visitors in the hall looked at them as if they were a ghost. And the Red Man shouted to the girl that she said his children were being held here, but there was no one here. Nuna replied that it was strange, since the patch pointed to that spot. Afterwards, she recognized the girl and said it was her student Ray. The girl recognized her too and was surprised. Meanwhile, Nuna was already running to her aid. She removed the duct tape from her lips and the girl thanked the teacher. Nuna started asking how their field trip went, though the high schoolers actually got lost during it. The teacher thought she was probably joking, but the student threw herself around her neck, so she realized the girl was really scared. That's when Nuna remembered Kim and told him that his kids probably weren't here. The Red Man replied that it was initially foolish to assume their children were related. The teacher replied that she was sorry. Wallow, who was watching all this, said to himself under his breath that this was why they shouldn't have messed with the kids from the trendy neighborhood. They were a mess. Then the teacher recognized him and told Kim about it. The Red Man noticed him too and said it looked like he could find the kids if he caught him. But Wallow was not afraid of him and condescendingly asked what he was going to do with him now. After all, the people of Blue Moon don't dare to look him in the eye, and he still wants to catch him. And if he wants to talk to him, how about first making an appointment? When he said that, there was security surrounding him, and Wallow self-satisfiedly said that the Red Man now had nowhere to go. After which, he ordered his underlings to attack the Red Man, but it wasn't as easy as he would have liked, because all their attacks on Kim failed, and only resulted in the deaths of a few people. Wallow looked at it calmly, sipping his wine, seemingly unimpressed that the Red Man couldn't be hurt, and Kim said he would agree to a meeting. At the same time he added, approaching Wallow from behind, that it was only for his funeral. All of his guards were already lying dead on the ground, and the visitors and staff started to go into a placard at the sight of what was happening and rushed to run up the stairs. And Wallow still didn't understand what had happened. How in such a short time the Red Man was able to kill all of his guards. Then he decided to call in his strongest guards, who were twins. They told him they would certainly stop the Red Man. With those words, the boys jumped on the mask. But the Red Man wasn't going to give up so easily either. He melted his hands to his sides, preparing to face his opponents with dignity. When the twins got close enough to him, he dug his nails into their bodies, thus tearing their flesh to shreds. The twins had not expected this at all and were a little dazed from the pain, whereupon the Red Man grabbed them by the scruff of the neck and shooed them away from him like kittens, ordering them to get out of his way. Thus his enemies were defeated and thrown behind Wallow's back, and the twins themselves lay virtually unlived. This infuriated Wallow even more as these twins were his strongest guards. He hadn't even seen them get beaten. The Red Man wasn't going to listen to him. He just walked right up to him and grabbed him by the throat. Kim shouted, lifting him off the floor to tell him where they were keeping his children. Wallow tacked on that the child was right here, but Kim countered him that he was talking about the 9 slum children they had recently kidnapped. Then the chairman realized who he was talking about and said it was no wonder they looked so appetizing, even though they had taken them from the slums, then asked if he was their guardian, and then laughed and said that they were not his here and he would never find them, so let him abandon the idea and just give up. Then Kim was wary and asked what he meant. That's when Ray and Nuna saw the butcher sneaking up on the teacher. Ray shouted with all her might to Kim that the danger was behind him, and Wallow said it was about time to chop up the Red Man to the butcher. Kim didn't have time to react, so the butcher plunged his knife into him. He practically actually chopped the teacher in half. And Wallow stated that so-and-so would tell him that his children were now in the hands of people who were far more powerful than he was, and they wanted children not from the blue moon. They needed children, without relatives, so that even if they went missing, no one would look for them. And that's exactly what his kids are. So all he did was be demands, needs, and provided them with such children. Then he took what was left of Kim and said thoughtfully what he should do with it now. After thinking for a bit, he told the butcher that after taking care of the teacher, let him remember to get rid of the uninvited guests. Then suddenly he received a blow in the eye. It turned out to be a red man with the surviving part of him lying off to the side. He said that since his children were carried, then there was no reason to leave everyone alive as well. No sooner had he spoken than his body parts began to fuse together. Ray enthused that he had risen from the dead, and Nuna replied that he was recovering from any damage. Wallow was shocked and didn't understand how this happened. After all, the teacher's body was cut in half and he was still alive even after that. Unbelievable. The chairman shouted again, calling for the butcher. At this time, Kim's hand that was still holding Wallow's throat released him, which gave the man a chance to exhale. And Kim's very arm had rejoined his body, and he asked the butcher that his only weapon was a knife. The butcher only groaned. Then he shouted out in a voice, watching the mask grow beastly before his eyes. Such screams even made Ray and Nuna cover their ears with their hands. And the red man was now standing across from the butcher, set in a very unfriendly attitude toward him. Seeing this, Wallow told the butcher that he is a beast of carnage. There is no way he can be afraid of this mask. So he orders him to be killed. Have him turn it into a steak. Butcher obeyed his master and threw his fists at the mask. He began beating the red man with his bare hands alone, as if he wanted to turn him into a chop. But the red man wasn't going to stand for it for long and attacked him back by charging at the butcher with a spinning hand. Thus he repelled his attack and inflicted damage to his opponent. Looking at this, Wallow said that it couldn't be. He realized that the red man was extraordinary, although he had seen many monsters in his career. But this man, he was truly the real one out of all the monsters. Now he was left alone with Kim, who told him that the end had come and no one would help him. The mask then asked if he had any last words before he died. Kim had already put his hand in for a punch, but Wallow asked him to stop. He said he was the chairman of the Blue Moon, and if the teacher killed him, he would become a criminal and forever lose his one chance to get his children back. Wallow offered the red man a deal that he would help him find the children, because the same man wants to know where they are. Kim turned to Panda and asked her what she thought about it. Nuna replied that as far as she knew, even if he had power, he couldn't contact people on his own. So she thought it would be much faster if they found out from the finger chain where the children were. So it turns out they don't need him. Saying the last words, the girl closed her student's eyes. Kim agreed with her and walked right up to Wallow. He swung again for a punch and told him he was thankful for his worthlessness, because of his worthlessness, he could now kill him and not feel guilty. Wallow screamed as he saw the red man's fist coming towards him, but his shout was short-lived. A few seconds later there was the sound of a bang and everything went quiet. When it was over, Nuna and Ro left the restaurant. They were sitting in the chairman's office discussing the situation. Raya was told by the teacher that the men from the finger chain had died trying to save her. Nuna became concerned at this news, afterwards asking the girl what the guy looked like. Ro replied that he had a mask that covered half of his face. Nuna remembered a guy and realized who she was talking about. Then she laughed and said who she called a man. This guy's name is Hobie and he is only 2 years older than Ro. He is 21. And besides, she's sure he's fine. The girl didn't really believe her, however, and Noon begins to explain that his job was reconnaissance, meaning he had to sneak into the building and discover where Ro was. When it began to look like rescue was impossible, he had to give up the patch and retreat. In the end, the plan was for Nuna to find her apprentice. Moreover, all the members of the finger chain including Panda had been trained so that they could control Blue Moon City. Therefore, they wouldn't be able to defeat any of them so easily. Besides, said Nuna, she is sure that Hobie is already back in the trendy neighborhood and is resting, so girls should not get depressed about him. But Ro didn't really believe her, for she had seen with her own eyes a guy being eaten alive by a monster. Besides, she was sure that this monster was still in the building. At this time, the monster was actually wandering around the building and could smell a human intruder. At the same time, this odor, though faint, seemed familiar to him. The red man he sensed came face to face with him. and when the monster saw him, he opened the post and said thank you for the treat. But Kim was not afraid of him at all. He was only a little surprised at such a strange monster that could talk. Without thinking long, Red Man took some effort to tear the monster apart, and to his surprise Kim found inside the monster a guard and asked him why he was inside the monster. The guard replied that he was looking for children here. How unexpectedly he was attacked by this monster. Though he struggled hard, he didn't last long and eventually the monster swallowed him. Kim then asked if the monster had eaten him as he was running away and he confirmed it. That's when Nuna came up to them and was glad she had found them both. And Kim in turn asked where they were and Nuna replied that they were in the chairman's office and she now knows where they should go next. They should head to the giant food store. The security guard said the giant food is just another conglomerate. Nuna said that the business of both giant food and gourmet food are similar, so the presidents have a good relationship. So much so that they are practically considered brothers. That's why gourmet food, which fell short of the conglomerates, was able to rise so high solely because of the support of giant food. As they exchanged information there were traces left behind, which she found in his office. The teacher showed Kim the paperwork and said that the giant food was holding Ray's sister, Ramona, and one girl from her students. Kim picked up the paperwork and saw the girl's picture. He recognized her. The girl's name was Hyunjun, though that name seemed a bit strange to Nuna. Nuna explained that they are now waiting to hear back from the finger chain about the whereabouts of the children. That's why they are already directing here. The Red Man asked what route they would take. The girl said they didn't know yet. A security guard caught their attention. He asked them to realize that giant food is really dangerous for them, since its chairman was one of the heroes of the past who prevented a rebellion. He has blue blood. This is another level. They will all die after fighting him. Kim didn't really understand what blue blood meant, and Nuna explained to him. It's what they call the pillars of the blue city. The pillars can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The red-haired man asked what was the matter, and thought that for Hyungnam's sake, he was willing to die. Then he grabbed the guard by the chest and asked him if he wanted to die at his hands or show them the way. The guard replied that he would show them the quickest way. Nuna told Raya that she had to go home, so she would take her to the passage that led outside. The girl agreed, of course. The teacher held her hand and she could feel her warmth. The warmth made her feel good and relaxed, though she could feel Nuna's thoughts about the man who had been alive for over 100 years. Then the girl thought that maybe it was all because she felt relieved, since she had been pinching under her eyes all this time and all the accumulated fatigue suddenly came in one wave, so that they feel this bad feeling. She wants to get away from here and go back home as soon as possible. She really missed school where her friends were waiting for her, and also around the house, where she was comfortable and where her sister had always previously been waiting for her. Ray also missed her sister. The girl remembered that her sister was far away from her and I began to feel ashamed that she was relieved, for her sister was still suffering. The girl remembered how she felt being around that monster. How scary it was when it opened its maw, or when he took the bodies that were lying in this room, and also when he killed the guy who came to rescue her. Ray clearly saw her sister's frightened eyes in front of her, and also how hard it is for her there, so she made a decision and asked me to take her along. Everyone was surprised and asked if she really wanted to go with them to the giant food or if she knew something more the whereabouts of the children. Ray replied that she had to go with them, but the red man objected to her saying she couldn't do that. Then the girl yelled that her sister was in town, she wanted to come to her aid, but Kim said she couldn't do that and let her leave everything to Panda. That's when Ray got angry and yelled that she was going anyway, but the red man also became furious and replied that he would not go. For a while they bickered in a similar vein. Nuna and the guard watched their altercation, until the girl stopped, deciding to act differently. She turned to her teacher and asked her directly if she could go with her, and Nuna replied that of course she could. Kim shouted, "What do you mean of course you can?" At that, bits of his mask flew off his face in anger. Nuna squirmed as everything flew at her, right in her face. With that, a piece of the mask went into her mouth and the red man asked if she was crazy. What was she thinking when she said she was taking Ray with them? Nuna only replied that his mask tasted like blood. Kim only shook his head and said she was definitely crazy. Nuna objected and said that Ray was almost an adult and she could be careful, which could help them too. On top of that, she has a special talent, and the finger chain opined that Ray should accompany them when they set out to rescue Ramon, because she wants to protect her family more than anyone else and that can only be a plus for them. Doesn't Kim agree with her? Threw one last trump card to Nuna. Kim looked her straight in the eye for a while, after which he turned around and told the girl to let her do what she wanted, but not to hold a grudge later for not stopping her. The guard who was watching them thought that putting up with such horrible things and still having courage meant that he Nuna had nerves of steel. Meanwhile, Ray thanked the teacher. Nuna replied that in truth she wished she could stop her, but she does have a special talent, and even if she didn't join the fight, she should defend herself to the best of her ability. So Nuna asked hopefully if the girl would be alright. Ray answered firmly that yes. Meanwhile, at Giant Food Corporation, work was still going on. Someone's meat was roasting in the oven, probably could be human meat, and the corporate security guard was watching the clock. Looking at them once again, he realized it was time to move on to the gourmet food and headed for his master. OG, the chairman of the company, was devouring meat and drinking blood when the guard approached him. Seeing him, OG realized he had to go before his brother waited. After a while, the whole company, led by the red man, came to a store that apparently sold clothes. They read the name on the zipper sign. This surprised them a bit, but the guard explained that it was a high-end store. There are only a couple of similar places in the whole city. When they entered the premises, they were greeted graciously by the salesman. The red man wondered. After all, this was just a clothing store. Why did they come here in the first place? But Nuna replied that this was not an ordinary store. It was an unusual store with clothes. With these words, she pulled out her finger chain patch. Found out it's the secret hideout of a trendy inner-city neighborhood. And the salesman saw her patch and asked what business they were here for, and Nuna told him that she needed some help before she went on a mission. The salesman replied that well, he would help her, and his partner headed toward the room, which was zipped up. The girl walked up to this room and pulled on this very zipper. The guard and Ray looked at this as if it was something incredible. And in the open space before them appeared a corridor with many doors, and the girl invited them to go through it. The head of the fashionable neighborhood was a woman named Handsome, a woman who had independently turned the wasteland into a fashionable neighborhood, always wary of Blue Moon City, because she knew this town was corrupt, and she also knew that if the trendy neighborhood was attacked, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves alone. That's why she decided to form a group with superpowers based on trust, which she decided to call the Finger Chain. The members of this group flooded the world to be the eyes, ears, hands and feet of Handsome. Turns out Ray didn't know all of this. She always thought they were just some vigilance group members combining two jobs. And this zipper store, which goes undercover in Blue Moon City, is also owned by the Finger Chain. Nuna, Red Mask, Ro and the guards settled into this hiding place and put the teenager to bed to begin with. They then began to devise a plan to locate the abducted slum children. One of the Finger Chain members said it's a pretty serious question, but if it's important to Panda, he'll try to find out. The red man thanked him for that. Nuna was surprised and said, does he really know how to say thank you properly? The red man replied that of course he knows who she thinks he is. And Panda replied that she had only seen him when he was angry. Kim said that since these city boys kidnapped the kids, so he would just destroy them. In doing so, he scared and woke up Ray. Seeing this, he apologized to the girl. A member of the Finger Chain said that Kim's story of single-handedly bringing down this huge vicious company was impressive. So it's great that their group that opposes the city now has such a strong ally, since there are not many shelter zippers in town to avoid surveillance. However, they expect a good outcome due to the red man's outstanding abilities. Nuna noticed that the real problem was how the four of them would get to the giant meal. After all, if they walk, they will be immediately spotted by CCTV cameras and the police will be called. Kim asked that couldn't they engage them in a fight, but the man told him that unfortunately their main priority was to work in the shadows of the city, so they couldn't reveal themselves so easily. Besides, this could lead to a war between the city and the streets, so he too asks him to avoid clashes with the police. Then he turned his attention to the cops and said he didn't belong here somehow. The guard yelped when he noticed he was being noticed. He started to panic, picking up the words to explain himself, then noticed a pipe that led to the ventilation or sewer system, then offered to sneak a giant meal through her unit. Nuna asked to explain more specifically, and the cop replied that he was referring to Bingo Delivery, which specializes in delivering frozen food, since they installed a long tube all over the city to keep the food from thawing when they delivered it to the store. It's true he doesn't know if it's connected to the giant food headquarters. However, if they try to get through the pipe that connects all the neighborhoods, it could be dangerous most likely. Everyone stared at him in silence for a while, then exhaled and said that it was a pretty good idea. The cop got embarrassed but seemed pleased with his acquaintance's reaction, and Ray sat there wondering if he was on their side and if he could be trusted. Meanwhile, the cop pulled out a map and started explaining that the nearest Bingo Delivery is 10 minutes away. And besides, they wouldn't have to hide because it was on the outskirts. After hearing that, the red man suggested they move out right away. But before going he was asked to put on his clothes, because if he walked around the city with a bare torso, he would surely draw attention to himself. Kim was at first surprised by such a remark, since he hadn't noticed it himself. And the man went on and said he just had some clothes that would fit him. And in the meantime, the corporation was preparing for the banquet and welcoming the guests. And a huge amount of meat was being brought in for this purpose. And OG's guards were keeping an eye on it. They also made sure that the welcoming of guests was done in a dignified manner. They even lined the red carpet for this one. And then they summoned all the guards and put men on her sides. After everything was ready, the court was told that everyone had arrived. OG looked out and said he could already smell blood, and he was already excited to see what Hyero had in store for him. With these words, he got out and walked down the path. And his security guard thought that somehow it was strange. He couldn't believe that the Gourmet Association hadn't answered the phone today. No one had even come out to meet them. But his eyes widened even more at what he saw as they got closer to the store. Right on the gate hung either a body or a mannequin. And when OG opened the door, he realized that something had happened here. Just then a man came out to them and greeted Oog and Bari, his guards. Bari was surprised to see him working here. And afterwards, he asked what happened to the gourmet store. The man explained to him that an unknown man in a red mask killed Chairman Hyero and all his subordinates, and after everything disappeared. Bear asked if it was a street gang and if he had accomplices, but it turns out he may have had accomplices. But this masked guy made the whole mess by himself. He really is a monster. The man went on. No matter how many times he was beaten, no matter how many times he was wounded, he still wouldn't die. And there was no way he could have stopped him, so he just hid. Bari then asked where they went. It was explained to him that they headed towards the center of town. Also, although it's weird, one of his accomplices was a police officer, as well as a girl in sunglasses and a teenage girl. Bari figured that the cop didn't care if he was real or fake, but this was already a serious problem. Afterwards he thanked the man for the useful information, and he also thought that it was good that news of the incident had not spread beyond the suburbs, after which he grabbed the man by the throat, who had not expected such a turn at all. He asked what he wanted, and Bari replied that it was nothing personal for nothing. It stressed him out that suddenly the headquarters of the Gourmet Association was in such a backwater. Since that's the case, it's not like there's never been anything good here, so let it get worse, Bari said, after which he ripped the man's head off. Then he tied him up and tied him in a sack. Now he realized that if they wanted to clean this place out and find survivors who had managed to escape, it was going to take time. At this time he was called by the chairman and he responded. OG exploded. How is it that someone dared to kill his closest Donson in Blue Moon City? He demanded with gnashing teeth that they track down whoever had done this and deliver his body to him personally. He would chew on it endlessly. Bari replied that he would hire a qualified hitman for the case. At the same time, Kim was changing into different clothes in the stall. Nuna, who was standing next to him, asked how his clothes were. After all, he was lucky to have a collection created by Hans here, as her clothes had the function of absorbing electric shocks and self-healing. The teacher noticed that indeed, the clothes seemed to look normal on him. Nuna was indignant that he knew that the collection Hans had created was so rare that no money could buy it. Kim came out and remarked that he'd customized it some more. Everyone gasped when they saw it. Nuna said that it was a gift to increase the probability of success of the operation. Besides, it suits him very well, the girl said, and the others agreed with her. After which she asked if he was ready now. Kim confidently replied that he was ready. We could move out to look for the children. The teacher was wearing a leather jacket, athletic pants, and massive boots, making his image even more intimidating and confident. In the meantime, bingo delivery was running like nothing happened. One of the superintendents was walking to the employees to check on their readiness for the new workday. He entered the cold room, along with his assistant. The rest of the workers had already gathered there. The superintendent said hello to everyone, and those responded to him with the same greeting, while calling him captain. The captain announced that before they got to work, he would relay a message coming from the giant meal. The message stated that due to an accident at the main branch of the Gourmet Association, the operation of the gourmet shop has been temporarily suspended and more details will be provided when all ongoing logistical issues are sorted out. But no matter what, he suggested that even today he'd put his best foot forward so he wouldn't freeze in that refrigerator. Then he shouted a pep talk, and the employees picked it up. But he didn't like the way they did it. He said it was too quiet, so they couldn't even call for help if anything happened. They should talk louder. The workers responded louder, but he still didn't like it and demanded even louder. The workers shouted even louder and the man was finally satisfied. He demanded that the gate be opened. The gate's charm went up and a red light alerted that it was open. Puffs of steam showed from there, and when the vapor dissipated, blocks of ice appeared before them. The captain directed the icebreakers forward and they obeyed. They ran in preparation to face the icy obstacle properly. Soon the first workers had already begun their battle against the ice. Once the job was done, it was time for the distribution team to run. They started their work and sent goods numbered 153, 2773 and 153, 4121 down the A17 pipe. Once the grass was cleared, the goods really headed down the conveyor belt. The workers had to make sure that the goods moved through the pipe without obstruction. Fortunately, things were going well now and the pipe was running smoothly. The crate of goods slowly made its way down the pipe, but encountered few obstacles. Soon a few more goods also went down the tubes. These were pipes A12 and A13. While everyone was working, the mate asked the captain if he was cold, as he had such thin clothes. The captain told him that cold was nothing in the face of enthusiasm. He could safely be here even without outer clothing. Here he noticed a strange thing. The gate to the refrigerator started to open for some reason. When the gate all the way up, a red man appeared before them and greeted them. 30 minutes ago, Red Man, Panda, a policeman and Rose sneaked into the bingo delivery. They saw the employees' clothes in front of them and thought how could they be so careless to leave their stuff behind. No one can take any, Kim wondered, but Panda told him that there were no thieves inside the city. Kim was surprised, and the policeman explained to him that there had been some thefts, but no one had ever stolen clothes. Usually it's the competitors' ledgers that are stolen. The cop told them that after they arrived here, he remembered a story. It was a story his son Bay had once told him. There is a general blacklist that some large companies use, and all the people who are mentioned in this book disappeared without a trace. But after receiving a report from the family of the missing, the police investigated and found them. Turns out they all froze to death. Cop noted that his friend had always been suspicious of bingo delivery, and Kim said that the founder of that company only seemed like a good businessman from the outside, but in reality he was taking orders for murders. Ray heard all this and wondered if it was too cruel. Kim replied that yes, it was brutal, but the manager of that shop was a fighter nicknamed Mad Dog, who was expelled for multiple murders. Then Panda suggested a follow-up tactic. She told Kim to go for it, stopping at nothing. The red man naturally agreed with her. When their appearance was noticed on the shop floor, they were told that no one but employees were allowed in here. Who they even were? Kim calmly replied that there would be no details as he didn't work here, so let them try to stop him and prevent him from coming through here. The captain was a little miffed at such insolence, so the red man decided to take advantage of this and said that since he was an intruder, let them risk stopping him. He clenched his hand into a fist and swung to strike. The blow hit the bullseye on the captain. Yes, so that from that wet place was not left. In addition, it was very surprised all those present in the shop. But they soon recovered from the shock and the icebreakers rushed at Kim. They had already swung their weapons with the intention of overpowering him. But the blow came past because the youngster broke against Kim, which contentedly surprised the icebreaker. The red man tossed aside the broken tool. The rest of the icebreakers stood bewildered watching what was happening. The chairman watching the scene thought that since this strange stranger had broken the ice hammer with his bare hands, he probably had some superpowers. Afterward asked the ice picks what they were afraid of, since they bingo delivery. And everyone ran like a herd to the red man, and that's all he wanted. Kim scattered them like little kittens to different corners. The main thing was looking at it and wondering why it was such a mess all of a sudden. But the fact that he was busy was only to the advantage of the red man's company. Since they were dressed pretty much the same as the shop workers, they decided that they should sneak in unnoticed by whatever distractions were going on. Though Nuna didn't have time to think this through properly, but she thought it seemed like a good strategy. They pulled out the necessary paperwork and Nuna said they needed to inspect the C-44 pipe, but it turned out that there was a fork in the road, so they needed a worker present to correct the direction. But Nuna thought about it and said that they needed to climb the ice cube and then they could set off. The cop was surprised at such an idea as it didn't seem feasible to him. And Panda said that once they climbed the cube, they would just ride it. Suddenly the policeman slipped and began to fall. That way he got everyone else's attention. And the one he was falling on said he should be more careful. He said he couldn't help it. It was a very slippery floor. And that's when the others realized there were more trespassers here. Because they weren't wearing work shoes, the cop realized they were burned. And Nuna took off her glasses and shouted to Kim to throw them on the ice cube. Kim turned to them and yelled that they had sent him to cover for them, but still got caught. Afterward, he ran to his friends, scattering anyone who tried to get in his way. He scattered them like feathers. and Nuna took Ray in her arms and ran with her, ignoring the fallen cop. Kim was already near the B-44 pipe and shouted for them to go forward faster. After a while, they were all on the ice cube, aided by the actions of the red man, and went down the chimney. Down the pipe they traveled very swiftly. Soon the other workers also noticed that they had hidden in the B-44 pipe. One of the workers shouted this to the man in charge and he ordered to head after them. She was in for an unpleasant surprise in the form of Kim, who said they'd have to go through him first. The main man replied that he already has someone to fight with, doesn't he? The red man didn't believe what he meant at first, but it turned out that the captain had survived, though Kim remembered perfectly well how he had struck him, and now it appeared that he had survived his blow. The captain replied that he naturally survived. It would be a shame not to pull someone like him to the end. His aides along with his employees decided to come to his aid, and Kim stated to the captain to stay out of his way and get out of his way. The captain replied that why already? He had asked to stop after all. So this time he's going to try to honor his request and stop him for real. The gates to the city were open. He approached the gate to take his shift, but all three of his coworkers had disappeared. The man replied that everything was right. One of them wasn't much of a talker, so he didn't know him well, but the other two weren't the kind of people to disappear without saying anything, even though he's trying to make sense of the case, but all the evidence was destroyed, as if someone had cleaned up the crime scene. Our hero wondered how an outsider had gotten into the city. On the central server where all the data is stored, there was no record of the gates opening and closing, unless it was related to someone with superpowers. The only clue was the damaged center gate door. The main gate is made of a special material, so it cannot be repaired quickly. On the other hand, the new asphalt was only recently paved, so there is the possibility of evidence being destroyed inside the city as well. Let them fold and recall everyone. The man didn't understand what being recalled meant. It was only a minor abuse of authority and all three were found. They have since been dismissed for AWOL. Leaving the workplace is not as common or as big a problem. Was he sure of that? The man thought that his interlocutor was either making things up or hiding something. If he doesn't believe it, he can ask his superiors directly. Detective Aston, with his authority, let him get involved. However, that does not authorize him to interfere with the investigation. The detective just looked at them at this point. In a sort of strange tone, he continued the conversation. A cube of some kind rushed by sharply. People ran after him. One of them took to the air at that moment. He immediately turned his attention to the people on that cube. After that, the girl kicked him. He immediately flew off and began to fall. It was a nightmare. If Uncle hadn't slipped, they could have gotten there safely. Kim was told by the guy that it was hard for him to cope all by himself. He fell on purpose to get in their way, didn't he? She took offense that she was making a good cop like him look like some kind of partner in crime. They didn't even have time to talk. At that moment, someone jumped in front of them. Then he just cut that cube. They were shocked at how he did it. The ice was chopped and he did it with the skates he sharpened every day. Or what? He seemed crazy. If he was going to do that, he should have cut it in half. What's wrong with him? The girl turned to the uncle at this point. Then she didn't see the uncle in front of her. As it turned out, they split up and went their separate ways. The girl started to call Uncle Tang Se, but she was mistaken. She thought the man who fought Kim was the ultimate boss, but it turned out that wasn't the case. To be more precise, it was an employee of another company with a higher position, freezer supervisor Cha Min. How could she even think of associating with a partner from a freezer delivery place? What kind of psycho hired them all? He was not a mercenary, but a teacher. What a stupid joke that was. The girl lifted her foot. Then they attacked each other. A battle broke out between them right during the meal. He thought Kirov had escaped, but it turned out not to be so. This woman and he were very much alike. The girl at that moment noticed something above her head. The man then literally cut the surface above them. More people showed up and they started telling Mr. Supervisor to be careful. The workers he had brought with him were only getting in the way, so he should have been much more careful. The man began to attack the girl. Did he think being neater would help him or something? She's never lost a one-on-one fight before. The girl then proceeded to deliver a series of blows to the man. He was furious at this point. Tang Se was bored since no one was chasing him. That girl said he fell on purpose. Who does she think she is? On purpose? Damn it, it's a girl. She was too attentive. He wasn't crazy to help her get out of the situation on her own. It was a good thing the pipe led somewhere else. He'll be able to escape danger and request reinforcements to atone for everything that's happened so far. At this point, the ice was rushing forward. Then it abruptly broke apart. It turned out to be the man in the red mask. The captain fought him, laughed at him and said he was unbelievable. At that moment, he threw the ice right at the captain. The red mask flew back. The captain claimed it was fun to fight like this because they used various complicated techniques. A real man, in his opinion, should fight like this? Red Mask said he wasn't interested in his philosophy. After that, the big guy started attacking him. Then he moved as close to the captain as possible. He liked that quality in him. They could be great friends. After that, they were above ground. He realized he had expressed himself incorrectly. Then he grabbed the captain's leg. The captain came to a rage at this point. Red Mask said he wasn't interested in the captain, just himself. After that, he threw the captain to the ground. Then the big guy was ready to launch an attack. A split second later, he attacked the captain. The captain was bleeding from an obscure spot. After that, he was thrown to the floor again. Red Mask wasn't interested in anything but his children. At this point, he began to walk through the tunnel. The captain realized that he was married. It was unexpected, and now that they had warmed up a bit, he suggested they fight properly. Any other human would have been dead long ago. Does he have superpowers? Too. Or what? The captain confirmed that's exactly what happened. He had the ability to convert the muscle mass he gained. He was as tenacious as a cockroach. Such unexpected praise. Cockroaches are really cool, he even keeps them as pets. The captain began to attack him. Red Mask responded with a series of punches. They both looked at each other with tension. After that, they re-entered the fray. The captain admitted he was having fun. The captain continued to throw punches. Then their fists practically collided with each other. After the collision, they both bounced a few meters away. The Red Mask stepped back at this moment. The captain chuckled and wondered if the big man would finally admit his defeat. He said he couldn't beat him. His ability is just ordinary human strength, and the captain's ability allows you to convert the muscle power gained. In a battle between people with superpowers, the deciding factor is whether one's superpower surpasses the capabilities of the other. The captain is superior to his opponent in everything and is impossible to deal with as he only gets stronger. What will he do when he is in his place? At this point, the tunnels began to shake. The captain attacked the Red Mask. The big guy responded to the attack. The captain then punched the red masked man, and he slumped against the pillar. The captain then threw another punch, but the Red Mask managed to dodge and the captain crashed into the wall. What does that mean? He had fought so desperately before and now he had lost the will to fight, or what? The big guy realized that the truth was on his side. You can't keep mindlessly beating someone who is only getting stronger from it. Perhaps there was some other way out. The captain approached him at that moment. Red Mask grabbed his back. The captain couldn't figure out what he was going to do. Instead of exchanging blows, he decided to try to use a tackle or something? So he decided to use grappling against his ability. It looked ridiculous. It's not like he practiced martial arts professionally. The plan wasn't a bad one, but skill was clearly not enough for him. After saying that, the captain ripped his arm off. The captain was ruthless at this point. He held his opponent's hand in his own. After that, the Red Mask attacked the captain. The captain was greatly surprised when he realized he was being attacked by the hand he was holding. Then the hand quickly grew back to the Red Mask. Red Mask stated that the captain had been caught. He said the captain was even more cruel than the old Cable and his kind. After that, the big man pinned the captain to the ground. He then began attacking him and kicking him to the floor. But what could it have changed? No matter how hard he tries, the captain will still win. After that, the Red Mask threw the captain into the wall. The impact was so powerful that a lot of smoke went up. The captain said it was getting hotter and hotter, but the Red Mask replied that it wasn't. Red Mask said he only needed a little, and as it turned out, he drove the captain into a deep freeze. The captain realized what a deep freeze meant, so he grabbed his opponent to drag him there. It seemed that he used this method to kill people. Let him try again. By my own methods. The captain began to approach him, claiming he was a bastard. At the last moment, he managed to extend his fingers. Let him not avoid combat in this way. After that, the captain was attacked. The big guy said he's not running away. Red Mask declared that the captain had lost. The captain began to yell and argue that it wasn't. At that moment, the door closed. The captain was left alive and virtually unharmed. Surprisingly, the captain's hand came out of the freeze. Red Mask grabbed his fist and said the captain was disgusted all the way. She added that she hopes not all people with superpowers are like him. Chunks of ice started caving in the tunnel. The girl and the man offered to continue the battle. The girl attacked. The man saw the girl's foot right in front of his face. Then the man managed to hurt her a little after all. The girl bounced back. The girl wanted to approach the panda teacher. She realized that she was fighting better than she thought she was, because usually she was either chilling or having fun. This guy was also unexpectedly strong, and right now, Teacher Panda seemed to be at a disadvantage. The man approached the teacher. The girl kicked up his leg. The man started to fall. After that, he fell on the ice, but he quickly rose to his feet. The man said it was a nice try. At that moment, he cut the ice in half. The cut ice began to fall. The teacher noticed that the girl had started to fall as well. The girl tried to hold on, but started to fall. Surprisingly, the man caught it. He left her on the ice and asked if she was okay. He expressed bewilderment as to why she would bring a teenager to such a dangerous endeavor. He rebuked her that a teacher who does not care for the safety of the students cannot deserve respect. The man noted that if he had used his skills, things might have ended differently, and suggested she turn herself in to the police for the safety of the students. He said he's gotten much stronger than he used to be. The girl called his name, Cha-min. He was surprised, as he didn't remember saying his name. The girl asked if he still didn't remember her. She remarked that it was funny, because despite their differences, they had a lot in common. She added that a perfect girl like her could resemble someone as unlucky as herself. The teacher asked if this was true. He realized that he wasn't the only one here capable of showing class, and if he acted cocky, that would be the end of him. The girl stated that she wasn't as frivolous as she seemed and asked if he would keep talking. The man replied that she was not at all what she wanted to appear. He wondered if she intended to continue her stubbornness. A man noticed a bolt of electricity approaching him. At that moment, the ice beneath him melted and he fell into the water. The ice looked unusual, as if it had a different density. Then the ice hardened again, confirming his hunch. It turns out that the girl's superpower allows her to control the hardness of objects by manipulating their density. The girl took off the man's mask and asked if he believed now. She added that the truth is that people change throughout their lives. She's visibly changed. She slapped him and asked him where such sweet talk came from all of a sudden. She thought back to what he had said about her being goofy and noticed that he now spoke as if to co-workers he hadn't seen in a while. The girl asked the teacher to wait and asked if the man was a colleague. The teacher asked why she never told her about it. She explained that she was originally from the city of Blue Moon. The girl was greatly surprised. At this point, the guy had already gotten out of his predicament. He noted that the road was confusing, like a maze, and it was not easy to get out. Anyway, things have gotten good, now all that's left is to go out and report back. At this point, he was approached, stating that he was taking too long and everyone was getting tired of waiting. Tang Se was surprised to see them in front of him. They were worried, but were glad he made it safely. Red Mask asked what was wrong with his face. She expressed joy seeing that he was okay. The girl was happy too. The girl ran despite the darkness. Her name was Hyun-jong, and she always smiled brightly like a sunflower. She has to be careful not to fall. However, at that moment, the girl fell down. She said she fell and the guy noticed her nose was bleeding and offered to treat the scratch. They went to treat the wound. The girl laughed and said that if it stings, it means it will heal faster. She noticed that if it was Soyeon, she would have cried by now. Next time she would try to be more careful not to hurt herself. But brave Hyun-jong never cries no matter what happens. That was her little secret, known only to the principal. It was something special. Someone approached Kim. The girl wondered if he had fallen asleep or was just brooding. They were about to leave. Cha-min asked why. At that point, he said he would never do it. The teacher explained that she wasn't asking for anything out of the ordinary, just suggesting that he pretend he didn't know anything. She added that their actions are holding the country back and if they are going to attack the Blue Bloods, it must not become known or the whole world will be in turmoil. Red Mask warned that then he would meet his end right there. She emphasized that he is being given a chance. His answer will determine not only his fate, but the fates of those outside this room. This could end badly for everyone. If Cha-min feels threatened, he'll fight. For the record, the only reason he's still alive is because Panda wants him to be. The man was surprised. The girl explained that they had been colleagues in the past. The guy was thinking at this point. Red Mask pondered whether to let him live. The man asked if she was protecting him because they were from the same town. She stated emphatically that she had long ago left the city and was no longer attached to it. She noted that it would be odd if a delivery service famous for its speed suddenly stopped working, and added that it was easier to pretend nothing had happened. She knew Cha-min well and was sure that despite his strength, he had a good heart. She believed that if they kept him alive, he would side with them. In return, she offered to provide security for his staff. The teacher agreed that it would be okay as long as he followed their rules. After that, everything went smoothly. They made it to the city through the tube, and the delivery staff, on Cha-min's orders, pretended they weren't there. Surprisingly, no one objected. The townspeople were used to following orders, looking out only for their own interests. Red Mask asked the girl if Cha-min was telling the truth about the clouds coming. She replied that it seemed so, for at that moment he had no reason to lie. He had just heard the story from them. The whole child abduction situation was defaming the honor of Blue Moon City. He can't help them personally, but he will give them some information. The giant shipment of food that is being sent is actually fake. The headquarters that most people know about is only used as a cover for doing business, but there is a real one where the chairman of the UG sits. He found out about it when he stopped by the false headquarters a few times on business, but he doesn't know the location of the real one either. Red Mask wondered if the guy they were fighting with knew where the real headquarters was. Should she unfreeze it and ask? They could do that, but she joked. Tangson really gave it some thought. If it is not possible to get the location from external sources, you can ask someone who works in that system, but where to find such a person? It turned out to be more difficult than it initially seemed. Her son Bei once advised using the closest bad guys that could be eliminated. She remembered the cash registers and service companies. Someone asked how they even dared to touch him. They probably thought they could handle it easily since it was just a medium-sized business by a young executive named Karan. I'm sure the bodyguards and police are already looking for him. Everyone around me laughed. I wonder why everyone who ends up here says the same things. Do they know why they are doing it? At this point he wanted to step on his hand. All of this was happening because they could afford it. The police still won't intervene if suddenly a medium-sized business enterprise disappears. Does he know why his name is on the blacklist? Because his business is annoying someone at the top. A man showed up and asked who he was. He checked to see if anyone else had come. It was Red Mask, who looked larger than the others. Even the guy himself didn't know who it was, as there were no such people among his bodyguards. She explained that she had nothing to do with him and had just stopped by to ask him something. She added that she happened to be in the neighborhood and noticed the place. Now there's something she needs to figure out. She had business to discuss with Huran. At that moment, the glass shattered. She ordered him to be taken outside. The mistake came out. The panda quietly threw it out the window. They were still in plain sight, so no one accidentally walked by. Why are the others standing? Let them grab him quickly. Red Mask was slightly surprised. The first man with the knife lunged at her. She immediately attacked him. It was possible to make some noise inside. She hit so hard that the man's body punched through several walls in a row. Everyone realized that their opponent had superpowers. Red Mask continued to fight. After that, she dispatched them all in one blow. She was no weaker than the delivery guys. It was truly insane. The boy couldn't understand why Red Mask had just saved him. She approached the man. She just wanted to ask him something. For starters, Red Mask hit him. She did so gently and demanded that he stand up. First she beat them up, then she decided to ask about the giant shipment of food. She wasn't about to let some unknown guys grab her. He's impossible to capture. If they want to stay alive, they should realize that, so they should have been taught a lesson to begin with. At that moment, 3 cars pulled up to the building. The boy started yelling for them to save his older brother faster. The man approached Mr. Manager and said that it seemed to be too late. The manager told him not to talk nonsense. His brother just couldn't do that. It was a medium-sized business run by a young leader named Hawk. People rushed into the building. The guy told his brother he was here. The boy spotted his brother Hawk. His brother went up to him and asked him if he was okay and what happened to his face. The boy replied that he was fine. However, he added that he would not tolerate it if anyone dared to punch his brother in the face. At that moment, the man greeted them. The guy asked what was wrong with his face and told him to say hello. Mr. Kim saved his life. The guy thanked him for saving his brother, saying he would do anything to thank him. Red Mask advised everyone to be quiet for a while. The guy added that he was willing to pay any price to get the information he needed as soon as possible. At that time, the big man came up and asked if the man had learned anything new. He replied that he had not yet. The guy became indignant. What do you mean not yet? Is that your answer? He threatened that if the man wanted to live, he'd better hurry up. Hawk asked what he was doing now and realized that he was trying to find out the location of the giant company's secret headquarters. The man explained that the current headquarters is not real, which is common among large corporations. Hawk looked at him carefully. He apologized for interrupting, but clarified if he was looking for his secret headquarters. He added that it would not be easy, as the big company hides its facilities well, but he suggested checking one place instead. Red Mask asked if it would really be effective if explained in more detail. The man assumed that if a giant company was hiding its headquarters, it would most likely be a tall building symbolizing the company's pride. They wouldn't put it in some small building. He expressed his gratitude for any help and promised to pay for it. The guy added that he won't suspect him anymore. His brother is a great businessman, but he is too emotional and that can lead to problems. Their admiration for their brother led them to the decision to investigate all suspicious buildings. However, he cautioned his brother, who was already almost blacklisted, against helping while on the verge. He asked his brother to pull himself together and do the building research on his own. A brother expressed his gratitude for his generosity. The savior added that if he needed help, he could go to Haoran. He promised to help. Red Mask stated that she had a job for them. She wanted them to look into the building illegally providing services. The man expressed doubts. Why do it? Perhaps it was a clandestine arms depot. He also added that he didn't realize who the half-cleaner was. Did he want to make up? Those were Blank's hitmen. Red Mask calmly stared into the distance. She dealt with the first organization, then dealt with the second one, after that with a third, and in the same way with the fourth. After that, everyone promised to do whatever it took. They realized that at this rate, they could find the location of the giant company's headquarters pretty soon. He asked if they had seen the brothers from Reconstructia. Judging by their words, these entrepreneurs could really help. She was right, it had been quite some time. Even if she's scared, let her wait a little longer. He'll save her soon. At that moment, the girl laughed. The guy asked if he had lost again. Ramo Ani won this time. He noticed that she didn't seem to have played card games before, but he still couldn't beat her. The girl said it was her first time playing. If she lies, she won't grow up to be a good adult. It was the truth. The guy has stated he won't play again. She asked when they were coming home. The guy replied that he didn't even know. Child care workers like him rarely know anything. At that moment, there was a ringing sound. That was the sixth call. She admitted that playing with her uncle and Ani is fun, but she misses her family. It annoyed her to be in the same room all the time. The girl began to remember her family. Her parents, her teacher Yura Ani, and her older brothers Tae-shin, Son, and Miri. The teacher was not a relative, but still considered part of her family. It was too dangerous outside now. Every night, red-masked monsters appeared in the streets and killed people. It sounded very scary, so it was better to stay here. She heard that among their accomplices was a woman wearing sunglasses. She wondered if it was Teacher Panda. The girl looked at the guy. However, he reported that the woman had died. At that moment, the ringing sounded again. It was the 57th call. She asked if it could be a lie. The guy replied that it was just a joke. But wasn't she scared? Did any of them know what was going on? The guy put his hand on her shoulder and said it was okay. He asked if she wanted to know one fun fact. In fact, he came from the streets, too. She was surprised, but he added that you can't betray someone you share a homeland with. The girl thanked him. A man came in and asked Rogela why he was back here. He said it was time for him to go out. He added that they will definitely see each other again. At this point, the cards were on the table. One of them had a picture of the Joker on it. He spent several days in a row with these kids and seemed to be able to gain their trust. He was bored, so he went in to see them, even though these kids were just ingredients that weren't worth fiddling with. However, he had something else he wanted to tell Bari. The man asked what was on his mind. He demanded 1 million Yulwei for information, but did not specify what the data was. He added that if those don't want to pay, he can settle the debt with money right away. The mention of an association in Gerben brought to mind people from the trendy neighborhood, but it also involved children. The man wondered if it could be the red-masked mercenary. There had been cases before with Irina connected to the red-masked assassin. He advised to prepare in advance, because it was his job now. His orders are to turn these men into mincemeat and bring back the leftovers. If they pull it off, he'll pay more. But how to find them if their whereabouts were unknown? The man did not know where to look. He bought information that even the salesman himself didn't know and said he would find them himself. He was the best hitman they knew. The man was sure he could handle it. In the end, he agreed. It was time for him to go hunting. At that moment, there was a sound in the building. Red Mask came out and said they were wrong. He was sure that the headquarters of the giant meal must be here, but it turned out to be just a den of some criminals. The girl asked to calm down, claiming they were misled by the leak of false information about the giant meal. Didn't they know this could happen? It was originally to prevent police checks. Zipper had to leave information on Hedge-sun. The number of Zipper's agents is limited, and even just finding him is an impossible task. First, you need to find a place to hide out of sight. Drops of blood fell to the ground. Then they went to the corner. The guy was watching them at this point. Some man was gorging himself on food. He grabbed a glass of wine. Then he drank that glass. Chairman OG welcomed Bari to the meeting. The man asked how the man was feeling. Good, the doctor replied. The condition of his body had stabilized. Then they'll arrange a quota this week. They had already taken some of the children to use as ingredients for the ritual. Like I said, you can only pick one ingredient and his body can't handle two. Those who killed Chairman Hero are now looking for a girl named Ramo. He thought something would happen, but they would still need a hostage in case of a worst-case scenario. The man ate. The man said he did not use this girl as an ingredient. The company went somewhere. The guy said he was tired. There were only two places where they thought the headquarters might be. The first is a display company called Europad. The second is a large mineral water company called Mineral Mountain. One is probably the disguised headquarters of a giant food. Mineral Mountain looks suspicious. Why do they need such a large volume if they are just selling water? Why are they selling water at all? This is because the rebels poisoned the water near the Blue Moon town during the war. Since then, all residents have been forced to buy drinking water. Mineral Mountain completes this niche and has grown considerably in the meantime. He doesn't understand why our construction put such an iconic company on the list. In any case, he should find out what he needs to know before entering both of these places. Europad and Mineral Mountain are not near each other. They're close to the center, and if they make a mess in one of them, it's bound to draw attention. It sounded like a last chance. They don't have to worry because both of these places could be the headquarters of a giant food. Chairman OG, who loves rhinos, ordered the building to be built in the shape of horns. Don't they look alike? Who is he, anyway? When the guy was asked who he was, he said his name was Rogel, but a lot of people call him Purple. Purple Choker. The panda apparently recognized him immediately. She told the red mask that he needed to leave the place, judging by the fact that he knew something that was in the apartment. The guy started walking down to them at this point. He landed right next to them. The guy said he knew everything. The chairman ordered them killed. After that, he pulled out his card. Red Mask noticed it right away. After that, he began to attack. He didn't hit him as he fell to his knees. He'd already caught a mercenary from the red light district once before. The panda came up behind him. After that, she attacked him. He didn't see her coming. Is she a killer, too? Or what? She was slower than her hands. However, after that, she just stared at him. She was greatly surprised and couldn't believe she was actually seeing purple. The people of Blue Moon City hate absolutely everyone, but there is a system of granting citizenship to distinguished street dwellers on the condition that they have to wear a collar. Purple is the chosen one on the battlefield. He was nicknamed the Reaper. What is this parody of a cop hiding behind a wall? Let him come out. At which point the guy could see the maps in front of him. The guy looked at him. After that, he started running away. Let him wait a while. He'll be in trouble if he kills a real cop. The guy said he'd wait here. The girl became furious and said he was pathetic. He started to approach her. The girl noticed him coming this way and decided to use her superpower. She looked a lot like Ramo. Was it any coincidence that she was related to her? The girl was surprised that the guy knew her. Of course he knew her. The girl prepared to die at this moment. The guy said he and Ramo were best friends and pulled out a rose. The girl was surprised that he got the rose. The boy asked if it was her older sister. He didn't know her, but he heard that she was more beautiful, while Ramo was nicer. What should he do? He doesn't want Ramo to hate him. Killing a family member of a friend seems so wrong, but he'll be sending Ramo there soon, too. After that, it's on to the head tube. The girl cried and asked Son if she was having nightmares again. There were 3 moons outside. It would be alright, let her calm down. The girl watched her. The boy asked Hejin what she was doing. She replied that she was playing cicada. The girl was surprised. As it turned out, the red mask saved her. Her head was chopped off. The guy was surprised to see a mercenary from the red light district. That's why he told her not to go with them. She'd only get in the way. Health has his head attached at this point. That was cool, even after he was decapitated. Just like that, invulnerable. Never heard of anyone with that ability. In life's endurance, let him go here, puppy, to the purple crooks. Or was it some kind of trick? He easily, without even turning around, repelled the girl's attack. How do you even defeat him? Red Mask said it was settled. After that, the guy tore it apart again. If he keeps trying to kill idiots, at some point he won't recover. Red Mask began to recover again. After that, fell asleep and broke it. The guy realized his card at this point. The girl watched and observed it all. Did they want to save Ramos so badly? Did they think things would go right in the city of the Blue Moon? Or what? He kept waiting to meet the guy in the red mask who was rumored to have wiped out the powder of their subcontractors. How I wish they were all just a little bit stronger. The girl was looking at the red mask. For sure, he's been injured many times already, which makes him unable to fully recover. It takes time for him. The girl started to say, "What did you mean when you said you were going to send Ramo there too? You gonna kill her or something?" It's not like they don't know that. Come on, he'll tell you why a giant food needs a girl. Ramo, she's an ingredient. What do you mean, an ingredient? The chairman of Cancer and Detergent is getting older, which is a lot, and really, a lot. Blue Moon City's medical technology can treat cancer and similar diseases fairly quickly, but cancer is related to the abilities of the chairman, so it cannot be cured by conventional methods. He is one of the heroes who restored their rebellion in the past. He didn't die thanks to his innate strength, but cancer is no joke. He got bigger and bigger to counteract the growing tumor, sought out more and more unusual tastes to at least temporarily forget the pain. His life was only getting worse, until one day a brilliant scientist came along and suggested a cure. He said to find a girl who matched the submitted sample by more than 90%, then he would make a cure. The chairman used power and money to go all over the city, but a suitable child could not be found. And that's when the chairman won the lottery among the kidnapped children and found the right one. One of these 2 kids will get all the blood running. No way! Since the chairman has been eating people lately, this is kind of meant to be an appetizer. The guy asked, now that he had satisfied her curiosity. It was his gift to her before she went out into the world, but now let her be still. How could this even be allowed to happen? They won't let anyone touch Ramo and Hajin. Isn't that right? Red Mask said right. Putting them on would get at least 1 scratch. He'll chop the socks off everyone involved. The guy turned and looked at him at that moment. The guy then attacked the red mask. He was very much surprised that his card was stuck in the red mask. Kim said the card game was over. After that, he was ready to attack. Of course, he was absolutely furious about the whole situation. The guy realized he had to block the blows. After that, the big guy attacked him. After that, the guy started coughing up blood. The blow was very strong indeed. Why was there so much strength in his punch? After his mask shattered, his physical strength had increased manifold. After that, the red mask started attacking him from above. But the guy was lucky. He reacted in time. He asked for a timeout. But no cheating. How else can he win if he's so powerful and immortal? Is it true? If it can't win, there's only one option: defeat. The guy laughed off her at this point. After that, the red mask was approaching them, ready to attack. Of course, the guy mentally noticed it. After that, there was an explosion. Then someone was standing on the roof. The guy said he wasn't going to die here. Honestly, it's not like they look like they're going to die easily. Let them look more closely. Because it's a map, a gift from God. Hejin tells everyone every morning that she loves them. She was telling the guy she loved him. When I had no answer, she asked if he didn't love her. Afterward, he looked at her. He said he loved her and she immediately hugged him and told him she loved him too. Let them look more closely. Because it's a map, a gift from God. After that, he launched the card right at them. Then she got stuck in the asphalt. Nothing started to happen. The girl was surprised that nothing happened. It was at this point that she noticed the guy was gone. That bastard fooled me. The man turned to Rajal. Momentum said hello to him. He didn't understand what it all meant. Just having fun with the nurses. That much was clear enough. He mused from the past about his arm. He said the wall ate her. The mercenary from the red light district they were talking about was actually the guardian of one of the kidnapped girls. The man asked if he had done it with his hand. No, she was swallowed up by the wall. Let him stop. Why would they even mess with someone so dangerous? He's just a monster, immortal and with superhuman strength. They are better off being killed the first time they fail a mission. It is safe to say that their opponent is on the same level as Shaka and Street. She has more urgent business to attend to, so won't talk about it later. Let her rest. The guy was wondering what the emergency was, and the girl was asking me if he wanted to try the cake. The cake was on the table. He walked into the room and told his friends he had brought them a cake. Someone asked them not to. The girl asked for her hands off Hajin. Better let him stay out of the way if he doesn't want to get hurt. The girl called out to Ani for help. Let uncle please help. People are trying to take Hyeonjong. She's just a kid. He can just let them take her. They are going to do something bad to her. Please let her have her back. The girl fell to her knees and started begging to be brought back. A guy's cake plate fell on the floor. The red mask was moving somewhere, and he didn't care at all. He was moving fast. No one could figure out what it even was. At this point, the girl said she had their car for a while. Let them all get in. The guy called them racers. So why did Kim suddenly jump up like that? He felt one of his children was in danger. When they first met, it was the same thing. Rather surprisingly, he was calm for a while. They've all managed to find those cold remedies by now. He hopes that with him, Son will get better soon. Even though the doctors are in the slums, he can be relied on because he is an expert in his field. He hopes that was really the case. Someone grabbed his leg. Teacher Kim then fell to the ground. He asked what she was doing. The girl was laughing at this point. She asked me to hand her a coin. Metal is good too. She'll still be happy to eat. He doesn't have any money. But if it's okay with her, they don't have anything with them right now. They'll go. Why did they just leave? The kid was out on the street begging for alms. He's sure he made her parents do it. It's a popular ploy these days. Parents forced their child to beg. Or what? That's right. Even in abandoned pipes there are plenty of people showing mercy to children. The consequence of which is that such a ploy was invented. However, the real problem lies in the environment. If that child gets anything, that same child will become a target for the animals around him. Co, however, is still troubled. The girl continued to sit and beg for alms. The moon was red. Someone said the girl was a useless creature. She was hit and told the bowl was empty. The man yelled at her and asked if she had never gotten anything all day. Asked if begging is really hard. It's really hard. Then he grabbed her hair. Let her put her head on the floor and beg. After that, they'll at least throw her a crumb of bread out of pity. Surprisingly, the girl apologized to her father with a smile on her face. Why is she doing something she needs to apologize for? If she let him down one more time, he'd sell her in the red light district. Did she pick it up? To a very great surprise, the girl continued to smile and agree with her father. She then told her father that she loved him. She repeated it again, but the man was furious with her. He asked why she was even born. He's fed up. I'd rather just die together. After that, someone abruptly attacked him. It was Teacher Kim proper with the principal. He said he couldn't believe it. How does such a lovely angel even have the ears of a demon? Parents have to take care of their children so that they grow up properly. You can't just help your child out of a sense of superiority to make it easier to know your mistake. He will explain it to him by his own methods. Newborn babies instinctively cry to make themselves known, and instinctively smile to get someone else's love. That's why the girl is always smiling, when it's fun, when she's happy, when she hurts, when she suffers, when she's sad, when she's lonely, she smiles all the same. At this point, the principal was beating the man. The man began to say that he would commit his own. Let him perhaps stop. The director asked why he had to stop. If he hadn't come here the next day, and one day later, and another day later, he'd abused the kid non-stop. That's the moment the girl grabbed his leg. She began to beg the principal not to kill her father and hurt him. He will never lay a finger on her father again, but on one condition. As it turned out, they didn't take the girl with them. The teacher told the principal that this is all well and good, but is it right to take a child away from his parents like this? It's up to him. Make it possible for that little one to not regret their decision to go to school with them. Though not related by blood, they could be family in spirit to her. They arrived so quickly. Let them pass through. It was Dr. Nagel asking how his condition was. I mean, he knows he's a perpetually suffering patient. It's time for him to be put out of his misery. It's time for him to become the hero of this city. Take it off. They haven't seen each other in a while either. Young lady, the girl greeted the man. Judging by her smile, she's doing great. Good. Get your meds. Please have him start treatment as soon as possible. He got everything he needed. He said it would hurt a little. Then the doctor said he was done. The man was surprised that it was so fast. He asked, that's it. Now it's a baby and there's a cure. It should be taken during, it turns out, after meals, morning and evening. You can roughly divide it into an upper and a lower part. Of course, you can turn off the mother-in-law and make her medicine, but it needs some time. He'd heard that the chairman liked the man's taste lately, so he decided to do it that way. Was it unreasonable of him? Since he had already removed the hunger, could he eat her right now? Let him wait. He just did a reaction, so we'll have to wait 10 minutes for it to work. He's clocked 10 minutes so far. If it's 10 minutes, then he'll wait. He started to say that he knew he was here. Let him come out now. It was a loud voice. The man began to ask him what was going on. Security was already all over it at this point. He started to say that there was some unidentified citizen causing a commotion in the lobby. And how did they hear his voice from the top floor if he's in the foyer? The teacher began to tell the girl that he was here. She recognized him immediately. The girl started to say that the teacher was upstairs. The man heard the walkie-talkie being asked. Or was it Hedgen? That's right, they have his baby. Red Mask tells them to wait. He'll get there soon. Isn't it rude to go after a big corporation like that? Let him book a meeting first, then come back. Some asshole with a monocle told him the same thing. How dare he talk about Hero like that? Have him tell him to come up here? Hero was like a little brother to him. He always betrayed his strength to him suffering from illness. He must personally avenge him, or does he think he's going to lose to him? Bari said he understood him. The Red Mask was looking into the distance at this moment. Does he see the elevator just open? Let him get on it. They will try their best to stop him as he makes his way up the hill. If he dies during the ride, it will be his own fault. If he gets there alive, he can meet Chairman OG and his child. He hopes he gets there safely. Given his abilities with which he destroyed the Gourmet Association, he was on the 4th floor. Directly he was accepted after all. How dare he even dare to infringe on their national hero? Their blue blood? A battle broke out between them. After that, a bunch of blood could be observed. Then there was only one silhouette left in the elevator. Then the elevator began to rise. He began to rise. Teacher Kim was already on the 5th floor. At that moment, lightning struck. The girl was startled out of it. The girl asked if she was afraid of thunderstorms. She replied that usually Teacher Kim usually read her books, but he was not there today. Then offered to read books to her. And then she remembered that she couldn't read. The principal was walking down the hall. He stopped, and when he heard the words that she had so further divided, she had the apple she was holding. She thanked the bear for always staying at his side. This surprised the man very much. The protagonist was already on the 52nd floor. Bari couldn't understand what had happened. As the elevator kept going, they are all still employees of Giant Foods, one of the largest corporations in the city. The 59th floor is the chairman's personal security. Jesus. Bari was informed they'd stop him on the 59th floor. When the doors open, simultaneously attack him. If they don't stop him here, he'll go up to the upper floors. They're going to show Gemma the power of giant food. Teacher Kim went up to the 59th floor. Only the best of the giant food workers remained here. They thought they could finish him off here due to their grudging ability but unbending loyalty. There was one problem, however. The enemy has exceeded all expectations. The lamps were drenched in blood and coworkers were running red lights. An aura of willingness to do to others what he had done to those who had already fallen in battle at his hands emanated from him. Kim was death incarnate to them. The elite city food guard team felt it instinctively. Even if they all joined forces, they wouldn't be able to win. Teacher Kim walked back into the elevator. Then the doors closed and he started to climb up. Bari said there was no way they could defeat him. Someone so powerful is harder to defeat when he instills terror in those still alive. An elevator passenger took advantage of him. Turns out he destroyed the Foodie Association all by himself. In the end, he was destined to go down with him. Teacher Kim arrived on the 60th floor. The chairman began to tell Teacher Kim to come out, just as the red mask appeared. Of course he was furious. Teacher Kim reached the top floor where the Panda group was while he was trying to save his daughter. At this point, the guy was attacked. Panda's group was looking for Ramo in another part of the building. Even though most of the guards had gone to another part, there were still so many people here. The patch indicates that Ramo is here, but the pink baby that Kim went to look for can't be here. Then they can save them both. So this is who I warned you about. Mr. Bari. He was pleased to meet them, the uninvited guests. They all brush their teeth 3 times a day, don't they? That was the third Tonga hierarchy. Brushing teeth is what separates humans from animals. Let them forget about it, what he's all about. Let him brush his teeth first before he talks. It was the policeman who realized that it was Mr. Tongs. The girl asked if he'd been in today. He doesn't know. Perhaps if Mr. Bari is the chairman's right-hand man and everyone is always around him. Only Mr. Tongs is his left hand. He runs everything else. And why is he here? They're guarding the main gate. The guy was wearing something. He remembered him. They'd only crossed paths once or twice at town events. He didn't know his name, but memorized all the faces he sees once. Restaurants have such attacks. Very useful when dealing with guests. He was that creepy police officer back then. He just called him Sunbae Weird. What if? At that moment, someone began to approach him. He said they are all criminals who killed Chairman Caro. They were all very much surprised, but the girl said she knew this would happen. He decided to betray them to his comrades. What comrades? I didn't have them as comrades for a second. Let them just look at him. Let them deal with those villains there as soon as possible. He roughly understood the situation. The street threatens the safety of giant food. He won't allow it. First things first, the guy used fine skewers. The girl was very much surprised. He aimed for her head, but she ducked so quickly. Next thing you know, they were struggling. Then the guy used a carving knife. He uses his teeth as weapons. Let her be careful. He uses a different attack every time. They're already at the dentist's office. What's wrong with him in general? After that, he literally attacked them with his teeth. They were very much surprised. The teacher decided to use her power. After that, she struck that huge tooth. And she has a pretty good ability, but his teeth will grow back as soon as they break. The advantage is on his side. He's as unreasonable as Kim. The guy in the suit is the doctor he saw before. And this boar is wearing very different clothes, apparently, and is the chairman. Henjon recognized the teacher. There were other custodians at that school, so he was the reason one of the trucks didn't come back. They are holding the girl hostage. Homs said the girl will be used as medicine, so she is not in any danger right now. The chairman asked the doctor how much time was left. He told him 2 minutes. The man said that was enough. Who killed Hiro? He'll get fat on his rebirth. The child was asked if she had a name, but at this point, she didn't answer anything. She said there was no time. The director decided to name her Henjong, but he already has nothing in his hands. Let him give her the name Henjon. A name is not a thing. Who killed Hiro? He'll get fat, but his rebirth. Teacher Kim looked at him. He was the perpetrator of a child abduction. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. He's about to join his precious bastard Hiro. After that, Teacher Kim accepted everything as it was. The 30-date lord also came in a rage and decided to attack. Teacher Kim instantly created a hole inside the man. The impact was so hard that all the windows blew out. The doctor and the girl were watching at this point. The doctor was very much surprised, for Teacher Kim had done it with a single blow. Shiro-ji. The full hero looked at his fist. Then the man simply fell. Teacher Kim then began to approach Bari. The man at this point didn't know what to do. Teacher Kim asked her, "Is there anything else? It doesn't look like he's above the chairman. Is there anything else?" Their shortage is just beginning. All the blood started collecting in the air. The full hero marveled at OG's blood. Some kind of creature began to appear. Then one could observe his mouth. Then the man turned into some kind of monster. It's the first time he's taken this form since the war. He feels like he's woken up after a long sleep. It was a powerful blow, and it exploded with such ease as if it were pudding. At that moment, Teacher Kim began to attack him. Teacher Kim created a hole again. To Guru Kim's surprise, he was captured. Though it looks like his head, it's not really his head. His body is made entirely of blood. Infused with his soul and will, he can grab him by adjusting the density of his body's exposure, and he can't lay a finger on him. That's why he was able to become a blue blood representative. It's a force that has proven to be at the top of this city. Let him realize that a street kid, as expected, can't beat the chairman. However, this guy won the fight with Pearl Rojurl. Caution is never a bad thing. He asked who was closest to the lockup right now. Mr. Rojurl is closest. Tell them to bring the remaining child to the chairman's office. At this point, the man looked for the guy to bring her in. The guy told him to wait for a while. The boy and the girl were sitting in a room. The guy asked her if she knew where her friend had been taken. She's pretty smart. The girl said she was guessing. Then he doesn't have to pretend to be their friend anymore. He doesn't know why, but she needs to be there too. But lastly, she would like to ask something. This unfamiliar place scared her at first. She didn't like this suspiciously good attitude toward them, but as time went on, she began to think it wasn't so bad. She was even having fun with Hyun Jong and him. How she wishes they had met under better circumstances. What is she trying to say? Did he think of them as friends? The boy was very much surprised to hear this question. A smile on his face, he said of course not. He's a town mercenary. Looking out for them were what he was paid to do. Did they like how kind he was to them or what? That's why he felt absolutely nothing. They're so stupid. He sensed something. After that, he did go down. At that moment he turned his attention to her. What did he do to him? The girl said Henjong ruined her. And that's why she could have saved Hyunjong. It would be possible to get out of here if she made an effort. However, things weren't really that simple. She wasn't alone, and with the girl, they wouldn't be able to escape from here. So she made the rational decision to stay here and die instead of the girl. But it was all pointless, because it was Henjon who ended up being taken, not her. A very calculating, cunning child. Unspoken rules among people with superpowers. Also, a person with powers can be dangerous, so you have to be careful with everyone you meet on the way. Her ability was rather tricky. If someone lied to her, a bell would ring on their soul. If that bell rang 100 times, she could control that person. Still, it worked great for him and his habits of trusting no one and deceiving all the time. And she thanked him for just lying. He's running late, maybe he'll come by and check it out. He asked the gentleman to hurry up. Well, that's when he attacked and killed him. Well, they won't be in a hurry. Then, it would be embarrassing if Bari found out about it. I have her fire glitching today. If a bad person tries to hit her, she'll duck her head toward the shoulder. Let him try what he's doing, he said to duck. Well, Daddy told her not to duck, not to block the blow when he killed her. He tells her to play with Henjon for a while, and he does what? The girl picked her up and said they would go. Current location. It was chaos inside. Teacher Kim was breathing heavily. He was worth the trek. I can't even believe he still hasn't died in battle with him. A member of Blue Blood. He can't die even if he really wanted to. The man realized what it meant. He laughed and said he was greatly mistaken. He thinks immortality. Even what? Unfortunately, he can't give people that kind of omnipotence. He talks about who picks up the check. Forwarding. I think he really enjoyed it all. And here's the ability was great for him too. Something started happening to the main character. He noticed that his body was beginning to burn very badly. The man said it worked. Earlier, when he had passed his blood. Maybe it's because he likes to eat, but blood orders the same action as writing digestive juices. No matter how much it recovers, it will still dissolve and disappear. Teacher Kim literally skinned himself at this point. After that, the blood fell to the floor. His character said he got rid of his blood. That was brutal. I can see why he thinks he's immortal. That mousy bastard. Since it's liquid, it would be nice if there was a freezer here so he could stick it in there. But no! OG the war hero can't beat him that way. As sad as it is, he can't beat him now. The doctor informed him that it was time for him to take his medication. He was floating in labor. He had completely forgotten about it. He thinks it's going to be a long fight, so he's going to beef up first. Teacher Kim shifted in his seat. The man was very much surprised. Bari was also very much surprised. Teacher Kim took the girl away from the man at that moment. What was that explosive speed? He didn't even have time to react. He doesn't think he was hiding his power. Rather, the desire to save the child made him stronger. The man became enraged and said it was his medicine. Revenge was unimportant now, and he must get Henjon to safety as soon as possible. Well, how can he do that? There she was. Teacher Kim found the ladder. He said they need to move forward. Teacher Kim simply broke down the door. Then I noticed something. Noticed you can get down to the first floor here. The man said he wouldn't let them go. Teacher Kim told the girl that he needed to stay here, so let her go down alone. A man was approaching him. He asked if she could handle it. She was a strong girl, so she should be able to handle it. Teacher Kim stretched out his hands toward her at this moment. The man and Teacher Kim then continued to fight. Teacher Kim was ready to launch an attack. After that, he punched straight into the ground. The blow was strong. After that, the man began to slump downward. Bari started running toward the chairman. The problem was getting bigger and bigger. There was nothing more for him to do here. So off he went. He could still hear the sounds of fierce fighting coming from above. He knew they had failed him. How had he ever survived fighting the chairman for so long? At this point, the ceiling began to collapse. Advised the chairman that he was beginning to fall. Didn't notice that the ceiling was falling and you had to run. First he stole the drugs. Now he's decided to destroy the building. Or what? Don't let him think he's gonna let him die in peace after this. Though she couldn't do any damage, the collapse of the building disoriented him for a while. If he keeps this up, he can carve out more time for Hyunjong to escape. Let him not stop and keep going. One more in the same. He can't believe he's being overpowered by some street bully. If he had been able to take his medication and his body wasn't damaged, he wouldn't have had to resort to such measures. The man told Bari that the situation had changed. Let him begin the blood ritual. The man said he understood. It's not like he was in the fight, just observing. What's he going to do? He began activating his ability. The world inside his pocket. Bari's ability. The world inside his pocket allows him to store items of a certain size or smaller. What about liquids that don't have a definite shape? Bari keeps a large amount of blood at all times by order of the chairman. This amount is enough to create a waterfall. Blood is the source of vampire's power. OG, who had absorbed a huge amount of blood, prepared for a full recovery from the drug, has temporarily peaked. At that moment on the stairs, the girl continued down it, but at some point she slipped up, and then she fell. She said she fell and again her nose was bleeding. She stood up, then she fell once more. She was having a hard time. Really? She called out for a teacher. She remembered his words that she could handle it, because she was a strong girl. After saying that, she said that she was really strong. She continued downstairs. When people talk about effort, comparing man to some animal stronger than a bear, faster than a horse, a grip stronger than a crocodile's bite, but whatever they are, they can't withstand natural disasters. That is the limit of human possibility. Teacher Kim tried his best to counter this. Of course, he was having a hard time at this point. The chairman laughed and said that although she had superpowers, but would he be able to handle the sea? Teacher Kim literally began to drown in blood, make him disappear at last. He passed out. The chairman said that was the end of it. He was in big trouble. The side effects of using the abilities were much stronger than he expected. We need to get you on medication as soon as possible. He can smell the young and innocent blood of a child. He just spotted the girl. The girl turned her attention to him as well. The chairman began to approach her. Teacher Kim realized that Hyunjong was in danger. He should have saved her, but his body had practically dissolved. Was he too arrogant to think that he could eliminate the blue blood representative alone? He has to come back. He made a promise. Let him protect these children and their future. He made her a promise. He also made her a promise. Let him please come back. Teacher Kim needed someone to realize who he was. He is the creator of a series of these masks, and this mask serves as a restraint that suppresses some emotions while inflaming others. The strength of his abilities is proportional to the feelings he experiences, and the fact that he can't take off the mask means he's not being completely honest with himself. Isn't he furious? And doesn't he care what happens to his child? Since he cares, then let him spit out all those emotions boiling inside. The chairman practically grabbed the girl, and just at that moment, Teacher Kim got out. He covered his ears, and Teacher Kim said, "Never again. He won't lose his children." Yes, he was able to become that much stronger in general. Superpowers are not the same as muscles. The more they are used, the better they become at controlling them, but they don't get stronger. Of course, they can be strengthened by absorbing blood, but there is no precedent for someone becoming stronger because of psychological factors. No matter how strong it is, it won't do him any harm. He can withstand the sea of blood. He's just happy with his child. Teacher Kim said they will look at it again. How will he be able to withstand his blows? Teacher Kim began throwing a series of punches. Teacher Kim was getting the hang of it. His fists weren't even touching his body, but he was still being pushed upwards. It was mesmerizing. The man didn't understand how this was possible. The wind currents from his blows were so strong that his body was pushed upward. Teacher Kim, of course, was furious. The chairman continued to fight. He started to go downhill a bit. After that, blood completely filled his consciousness. Rushing out, Teacher Kim flew out of the building. The chairman felt unbearable pain. Teacher Kim was surprised. he realized that something had changed in Chairman OG's body. Bari came to his senses at that moment. He was surprised to find himself here. He flew to a neighboring building. He can't believe that Teacher Kim just pushed the chairman outside. His superhuman strength reminded him of another hero, the bandit from the Hands of Titan. If this guy has as much power as Bandil, then the chairman was at a disadvantage. He should help him as soon as possible. He clenched his fist. What could he possibly do against him? At that moment, he noticed something. He noticed one of the men fall to the floor. Realizing that there were enemy forces here as well, he asked, "Who's here?" The guy said it was him. Bari asked him what had happened. He replied that it was no big deal, he just found his way off the street. Hid and motioned the employee over. Bari was puzzled. He himself had ordered her to be brought here, so why had he come here? It was worth admitting that the guy had thrown him out of the building while fighting the enemy. He was surprised that it wasn't the explosion he had just set off, and marveled at how the chairman had managed to survive. Is the chairman okay? Or is he about to fall? Bari thought. Everything was happening just in time. He's using this girl as a hostage to buy some time until the city strikes back. He promised him the preservation of his life, asking him to follow him. Bari couldn't realize what he had just done. What was that all about anyway? Better to know he hates surprises. The guy said that Bari got it all wrong and that he couldn't bring him in for no reason. He asked if he was bribed to get off the street. He said he had other reasons for his actions. Money obsessed? Let him not make me laugh. I'll pay him double what those street people offered. The guy asked if it was true. At this point, Bari started fighting the guy off. He wanted to say something, but didn't have time. Although he himself was from the streets and used to demanding money for everything, he was sure there was more to it than that because of his good reputation. He had never been so disappointed. The guy wasn't thrilled with how much was expected of him either. They looked at each other. After that, Rajal started attacking him. Bari started shooting at him as well. A fierce battle broke out between them. It continued, becoming more and more tense and rigid. At one point, Bari threw away his guns. He said that Rojal was the best killer, and he was well suited to be his opponent. However, Rajal didn't seem to listen to him and continued to attack. Bari found himself in midair. After that, the guy put his card under his gun. Bari attacked him using his foot. Of course, the guy instantly noticed it. Now that he's lost one arm, he's giving in to it. The hero couldn't understand what had started to happen. He realized that something had appeared in Chairman OG's body. Blood was pooling around the thing. Unfortunately, he could not allow humans to possess such omnipotence. But the hero immediately realized what the words were referring to. He realized where the chairman's weak spot was. At this moment, Teacher Kim was ready to attack him by aiming a punch at that thing. Then he moved and began to approach him. Teacher Kim was confident and knew what he had to do. He's almost to the thing. Then he was ready to attack her. A split second later, he attacked the thing. The chairman felt unbearable pain. He then threw Teacher Kim far into the air. The protagonists landed nearby. The building exploded. Teacher Kim lands a jab. Then he started approaching the thing. That clot didn't break because the thing was too strong for a weak point. The chairman started telling him to stop and agreeing that he had lost. He briefly asked for it to be his nipple as well as his body. It's a cancerous tumor parasitizing his body, a side effect of overusing the ability during the war in the past. Even when it turns to blood, the tumor goes nowhere. It continued to grow over time until it reached this size. It looked like he was in a lot of pain when he hit her. Cancer cells are part of his body too. In moments of danger, they defend themselves by absorbing his blood. She had absorbed almost all of his blood just to withstand his blow. When his health declined, he did something very stupid. Will never touch his children again. He's already lost, so let him be what he needs to be. Teacher Kim said that he was already out of line. He shouldn't have touched them in the first place. You shouldn't have touched them. If he visits him, he promises to give him whatever he wants. Money, safety, and the safety of his children too. He said he didn't need it. He'll get what he wants on his own. After that, he felt pain. Of course, the man felt unbearable pain. This thing went up, and then it exploded. Rajal was hiding behind the wall. Let it stop manifesting and go away already. He can't defeat his ability. He knows his ability, but he doesn't know what weapons he has up his sleeve. At that moment, the guy noticed something. Straight on, he spotted a grenade in front of him. With that, he began to run away from her. And 2 seconds later, there was an explosion. Hearts chase, clubs reflect attacks, and spades cut. He usually uses only third suit cards. The card flew at him, but if he is in danger, he uses tambourines that scorch and swear. She's also a distraction with the Joker, who has no effect. And here comes the wound of the last battle to make itself known. He respects him, so will give him the last word. He has something to say. The guy said his cards could do anything. Bari interjected what he had just said. The guy said he was talking about all these card abilities. Both hearts, clubs, spades and diamonds have the effects of all other cards. The card he was fighting off abruptly began to attack him. Bari began to shoot back at this point. It was like he was doing it, but the bullet was just ricocheting. These cards of his, he has enough for them. The place-activated abilities whirled inside his pocket. The guy realized something was up. He noticed he couldn't move. Under his foot. Found a map when he had time to. He himself admitted that he was the best assassin, so kissing him was no problem for him. Bari came to rage at him. Then all the other cards attacked him in an instant. Of course, after such an attack, he fell down. He can't believe he had such a trump even from him, even though he has been around him for a long time. I just don't want to give all my secrets to some guy with a beard. Speaking of card abilities, make no mistake, regardless of the suit of cards, he can use the card and abilities for 10 seconds each. He tricked him into composing. Bastard. That's what I always liked about him. He hopes that in his next life he will be born a beautiful girl. The girl said he did a great job. She just hid quietly and only came out when it was over. Or that she was weak, so it was best to avoid that sort of thing. And she believed he would win. It's so good to have a woman's support. At this point someone said he's hurt. Let her help him. You can't get any help from her face. It was really brutal. Suddenly she noticed her sister. Then they ran toward each other. The sister decided to protect her sister and kick the guy. She's in the company of such dangerous guys. She said it's okay. He's nice even though he looks like a pervert. He tried to kill her. That's what it was. He won't make excuses. Let him look at it. She'd used her ability on him, so he wasn't their ally now. That was a great relief. So you can't even tell she's the little sister. He's wearing a control choker that keeps him from harming us. But it doesn't seem to work. Even that is for the best. It was very uncomfortable. That's right. Raimo's ability, after all, is not just brainwashing, but is a high-level ability applied to a measure of H's rules and is subject to Raimo. The choker that broke the rule was visible. The girl said that she and Teacher Panda had come all this way to save her. The other thanked them. Yet Zhenjiang still can't sneak a win. There's this guy named Tongs. He was pretty strong. Teacher Panda had already taken care of him. The boy asked, did she really take care of him? When they fought her, she wasn't up to Tong's level. Does she have some hidden ability or something? Or is she like him, usually not giving 100% in a fight? He also played a big part in ending the fight with Tongs. It's a credit to him. True. Very helpful. So did not accompany the Teacher Panda, but welcomed. Let him talk shit to me. Since Teacher Panda was winning, he got nervous and stabbed him in the back. He was a traitor. He just pretended to be a traitor. Let him look at things more broadly. And he fixed at the end with Raimo's ability. He doesn't know what that ability is. The guy bowed. He apologizes. The police are all over this place. There was indeed a very large number of police on the street. That's why she wanted to do it quietly. Isn't he a cop? Why is he hiding? The neighboring knowledge was noisy. But now it's quiet. Did Kim manage to save Henjum or not? The man asked if they had caught the perpetrator and was told they had. Chairman Oga's killer just turned himself in. They were very much in love when they saw him already in handcuffs. Having already disposed of 2 blue-blooded chairmen, he couldn't imagine that such a thing was possible. Now his presence in the city could no longer be hidden. He didn't care. It will be a warning to those who now have his children. He was a good man. His methods and quite radical. He'll give him a few things to think about, as they'll still have opportunities to see each other for a long time to come. 2 of his children are in the city jail. Teacher Kim immediately understood everything. He asked how he knew that. He knows this because he's a ghost. Then let him tell where the other children are. Let him take his time. He will also eventually know the whereabouts of the other children. He doesn't care about his existence at all. They were surrounded. Until he goes to jail, he can't know the whereabouts of the kids. Just let him guard the peace. What he means to say is that he needs to let them catch themselves. Suddenly the ghost disappeared. At this point in the building, the girl said everything was ready. If she doesn't overexert herself for a while, her legs will heal very soon, so let her be patient for a while. The guy noticed she was good at treating wounds. Raimo was good at everything but fighting. She's clearly a better and competent big sister than I am. And why had the big guy even left his child and steeled himself? Wasn't it so that Henjan could get out safely? He most likely fell asleep without knowing the whereabouts of his other child. She watched them from the sidelines and noticed that he was very careful to listen to other people's opinions. So when it came to his students, he acted decisively. He killed the chairman so the rest of the kids can handle themselves. Not the same have achieved their goals so they can say goodbye to that. And by the way, if she has a boyfriend. But if you look at things in a simpler way, he was right. However, friends don't do that. Since when did people from the slums and the trendy neighborhood become so close? Doesn't she know the basics of street life in Blue Moon City? Enemies on other streets are also enemies. An enemy could even be within the neighborhood. So let her beware of betrayal while sleeping and while awake. Her friend was very lucky to receive capital punishment, because now he will be held in the most secure prison in the city, in the Purple Prison. Nothing can help him. Breaking news. The culprit who killed the city's hero, Chairman Oga, was today handed over to the National Police Agency. The desire for the chairman's near memory spread rapidly. Many companies have suspended operations to join in the universal grief. All the people came out to the rallies. They said that Teacher Kim was asking to apologize and would kill him, devil incarnate. They threw everything they could at him. All sorts of things flew at him. He was then brought in for questioning. He didn't give his name or motives for the crime. Also, he is not a townie. What is he supposed to do? How long is he going to keep his mouth shut? He did his own due diligence, so why isn't he cooperating with the investigation? He was from the streets. This is an insoluble confrontation. City and street. He can't believe he pulled it off all by himself. The Day couldn't defeat Chairman OG, so why does he want to show how he did it? The man was quite surprised, and then he was told not to move. He had already realized that he was dangerous and out of control. It was the head of the investigation team named Naspel. At this point the interrogation is over. He's only alive because of the team leader's teleportation ability. He's like talking to Sunbae in general. If he suddenly builds anything inside this room, the Blue Moon City's military forces will be sent to him immediately. If he doesn't want to deal with the military, then let him try to behave sensibly. He's just trying to scare him. He didn't react at all before, and now he's suddenly so attentive. At that moment, the detective was walking down the hallway. It's a common national problem, so there's a big difference in whether he recognizes himself as coming from the streets. He welcomed the head of the investigation team. He asked how the interrogation went. The man told him that the perpetrator was as silent as a fish. He couldn't make any progress, so even tried threatening him, but he didn't blink an eye. He really is a flint. No! He's probably just confident that he can get out of any trouble. How could an ordinary person with no powers kill the chairman? He reminded him so much of Baekwa that he got goosebumps. Why do you suddenly think of this crazy guy? Can he see him? As if he could ever interfere with his interference in an investigation. Put it down. He does what he wants. Teacher Kim sat by himself in the room. A guy walked in on him. There's no need for his wariness. He's not here for questioning. Right now only the smart ones are in this interrogation room. The detective introduced himself by the name of Aston and said he was working for the peace of the city of Blue Moon. Tomorrow he'll be transferred to Crimson Prison, so they won't be able to socialize. Just now, he has personally looked into some of the details. It's all just speculation, so let him tell me if he presses on FYI. All the cameras are off so their conversation is not being recorded. Before killing Chairman OG, he also attacked Chairman Hero, whose death is yet to be confirmed. So the two of them were quite close, but he's also the one who massacred the main gate man. The fact that he had to deal with the gate guards means he came from the street. The reason for all this commotion is that something else was touched upon for him. Right. Teacher Kim asked briefly what he was getting at now. The girl asked the girl if she was comfortable with her hair like that. She feels like it needs to be gathered, and then they'll shine, just like Yura Ani's, but she can't change the texture of her hair. Then, the teacher told the girl that she looked marvelous today. Yura Ani braided her hair. Does she want to show them to the principal? The reason for all this commotion is because something else for him was affected. Teacher Kim asked briefly what he was getting at now. He said that Teacher Kim didn't want to get involved in their business. He just wondered if his guess was right. Chairman OG and Chairman Hero did something to his family. Or what? Teacher Kim said that everything was right. He appreciates all that both chairmen have done for the city, but he doesn't like the whole behind-the-scenes situation either. A lot of dirty deeds have been turned over. He found his family members. Just one. He had roughly understood his motives, and now to get to the point, he wants to help him. He asked if they had met somewhere before. Or there's that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. As long as he's making a mess of things, it's only to his advantage. He and his employer want to get rid of the companies that are rotten from within and make the city sneeze. Pretty simple reason. Of course, he doesn't have to trust him. He could help, if not directly. They also need to discuss the details of the plans with everyone involved. Doesn't think he's a bad guy, but can he be trusted? There doesn't seem to be much difference between trusting him or not. The detective said he would go then, and asked that he not hurt the innocent townspeople. They're someone's family, too. After all, at that moment, he remembered something. He asked if he was the one who killed the guard at the gate named Baekwa, though he wasn't particularly fastidious. He was a good man. Teacher Kim asked briefly who the man was. The detective began to explain that the man hadn't let the cigarette out of his mouth all day and looked like he was letting it in first and only talking later. He's supposed to be alive. Sure, I hit his head on the pavement, but then he wasn't dead, so he was alive after all. He hopes he finds his family, and yes, may he keep his head. News of the chairman's assassination quickly spread throughout Blue Moon City. For some, the news was sad. This is how the stars they fought with on the battlefield are buried. The man said he would kill this guy in the red mask with his own hands, but the captain said to calm down. He's already served his fate. Tomorrow he'll be transferred to the purple prison, so let the court do justice. How dare that bitch go against the chairman? He's 100% sure he's from the street. And then someone approached him. He was telling her not to throw food. How could he scold people from the street right in front of Maru? He's gotten so insensitive with age. He started apologizing. He didn't mean anything by it. If he's really sorry, at least let her buy him a cake. She's the only one here who wants cake. What do you mean? Doesn't she understand human speech? Someone she encouraged. As expected, his savior waves to him that are greater man than they thought was speaking. It's really amazing. It must be a message for him. Isn't he exaggerating too much? They should stop running and start preparing. They should take the opportunity to get rid of a couple of nasty old men. Somebody even found it funny. And he was a real man, not hiding as he walks around with his head up proudly. He was thinking how happy they'd all be when the red light district found out. But isn't the red mask a little too similar to the one worn by Yubo? And for some, it's brought nothing but trouble. No! If he existed, she wouldn't be in this shit right now. Nadira, tell, why would you do that with the paperwork? Why on her to even do it with any old man in committee? She'll figure it out on her own. How does it work? Explain everything without background info. She'll just go there and let them take all the anger out on her. Either way, you're gonna need to load the lube. She can get off work early. She's not a poor mistress. She's got a lot of strength for you. At that moment, someone was eating. There's an emergency in the city right now. So where's the mayor? The city is in this state because they don't have a man with enough power. He heard the main gate guard leave his post early. He couldn't even imagine such a thing. He must have an informant inside the city, and otherwise how could he cross the fences? Why does this dish have such a flavor? The flavor of the food has changed since the giant meal disappeared. Holy shit, shouldn't there be a show execution? The death penalty was abolished a long time ago, but we have to punish him somehow so it doesn't happen again. It was the chairman of the Blue Moon City Steering Committee and he was asking what to do about the public outcry. The incident has already happened. He hopes it will settle down eventually, so they should wait. There's a lot to worry about lately. Everyone has food to eat, and life has become more comfortable, which causes all sorts of thoughts to pop up. Even if this criminal is put away for life, he'll die before they do. But he doesn't think so. Once in the purple prison, a person can never get out of it. This place is completely cut off from the outside world. I mean, unfortunately, they won't be able to see it, but it will be raced inside the prison. But they will be able to see the result. If the elders of the committee so desire, she can take a picture of the body. Just let others die. That would be too favorable. The girl said she understood. Prisoner code. Transportation to the purple prison begins. What is this? Are prisoner transfers always done this way? No, he just almost escaped yesterday. Broke handcuffs that even a metal cutter can't cut. So yes, contacted Noggle Saints to have them make a reinforced holding cell for his transportation. He hopes he can find his family. Teacher Kim sat on the bed. He was being taken to jail. Before going to bed, the children change into pajamas that the teacher has made for them. Sometimes, however, children fall asleep in their street clothes. Before going to bed, have them take off their shoes and then go to sleep. The order was there, but at this point he was naked. He said it's more comfortable to sleep naked. At least let him wear underwear. Crimson prison. The girl looked at the red mask and asked who they had here. It's the troublemaker who's causing her to have to pump through hell overtime. Why is he wearing a mask? Prisoners aren't allowed to wear masks. They've tried everything, but it won't come off. Teacher Kim asked if there is a jail, but there's not a single prisoner here either. Why are all the cells empty? This woman is just as suspicious as Chairman OG. How relieved it is that he ended up here after all. Goddamn old man, they think they're so stupid. She gives the orders. Should she get rid of them or something? Let her calm down. Don't touch them yet. She knows it herself. She's just internalizing the idea. Suddenly something started happening. Teacher Kim noticed that something was beginning to happen to the floor. The floor moves quite like an elevator. But now you can forget about the annoying reality and have fun. Hence, her world begins. And that's when the spotlights come on. Lucy was greeted at this point. Their star is Lucy. Gorgeous Lucy. It was exactly like that. And the gentleman did not recognize it at once. The music started playing. They all enjoy their time at Lucyland. The girl asked if she really liked it here so much. Then let them make some noise. The main group realized that it wasn't just crazy. It was a place that struck them more than Hero's Place ever had. It's a place filled with happiness, Lucyland. Please let them remember to wear their masks. Only Mrs. Lucy, all those disgusting prisoners, may not wear them. People online is open to only verified businessmen who are offered a variety of games. roulette, blackjack, poker, wheel of fortune, slot machines and, in total, more than 500 types of entertainment all inclusive. Here comes the sudden announcement, they want to play? Then have them buy tokens. The tokens are equivalent to a prisoner's life and will only be worth 100 million. The money cannot be refunded without additional conditions within a week of purchasing the tokens. The price of tokens can be increased regardless of advertising. Bets were taken before the game started. The drum spun. Number 21 won. One man got away, the other didn't. At this point, the guard was ready to shoot him. A split second later, he shot him. One more thing. Reusing a token is impossible, as they can't take them with them. The winner gets the money immediately. No commission included. They are worried about someone dying. In most cases, they cannot leave the streets, or their competitors die. Worrying about such trifles is not worth it. It is better to let them hug a toy. He doesn't seem to be easy to kill. He defeated Chairman Oga, which means his assassination can be put up as a great show. Just thinking about it makes her ecstatic. Chief Blood asked if he could ask one question. What's the question? Here's the answer to the supposed question. He likes women more than men. She won't spare him, her favorite food is dangerous. Teacher Kim asked if children could be used as something. She said no, and finished the question. Let him listen to her talk to him. It's work for her, too. Now her work hours are over and they won't talk. God, work-life balance is so important. Now, bye. Teacher Kim started to speak, he didn't finish, but suddenly he was gone. The girl said it was party time. The mine under Lucy Land. It's so noisy upstairs, apparently these lunatics are killing prisoners again, and it looks like fun. If they don't work properly, have them referred to our tons as well. At this point, they were all working without fatigue. In fact, they don't even give them a break. The boy asked his grandfather, has everyone in this prison gone crazy? It wasn't like this before. Crimson Prison used to be a labor camp for arrested rebels. They were treated quite humanely, but as Hazel began to gain strength, everything changed. By fraudulent means, the prison was closed to the general public. Everything inside changed. After that, innocent people who were unwanted by Hazel or her acquaintances were put in prison. In fact, the Hazel who runs the purple prison is named Lucy, and she is one of the secret blue bloods who runs this crazy casino. She is the granddaughter of a blue blood Lucid representative who has already passed away. She's always wanted to do this insanity thing, and even made up an alias for herself after becoming prison warden Nice. She's a pretty tough piece of work, was a truthfully violent, flat-out crazy bitch. He was arrested because he was Lucid's competitor. Although his business was doing better than his, Lucy didn't like his existence. He can't even imagine how the family of a noble lord like Lucid could produce such a monster. So how did he get here? The guy was ready to tell. Hajin sleeps a lot. He sleeps during class, and at mealtime. He also sleeps during his allotted nap time. Maybe it's because he's growing up. It was really surprising. The doors closed at that moment. Then the guy woke up abruptly. He looked at his waist and smiled. Bastards knocked him out with a tranquilizer while he was distracted. So why will they go? Don't let them do anything stupid. Sit tight. In front of them sit members of the Great Blue Bloods. They were able to observe them. People like Bari's Giant Food, Hand of Titan Bandil, Heroes Gourmet Association, Noggle, Hazel's Crimson Prison, and the New Galaxies community were there. What does blue blood mean? He certainly organized everything, but the children are brought in such a large batch. Isn't that just the beginning? Doesn't even mean what would be done if the mayor just found out about it? The doctor said here's a girl with pigtails. She needs to be a baby with Chairman OG. Bandil tells Lucy that they haven't seen each other in a while, but she's Hazel now. She reminds me so much of Lucid in her pedantry. By the way, wasn't Forden here? Or what? Had he already taken one of the kids and left? Those scumbags had already taken Miri away, and Son was nowhere to be seen either. The guy came. I'm growing into it. He started running to them and asking where they had gone. They're family members. He was then shot with a tranquilizer gun. Since the guy went down after that, he told me not to do anything stupid. The girl said he was in the way. Let him get out of the way. Goldilocks girl. How old is she? The girl said she was 12. Lucy approached her at that moment. She said she was just a rough diamond. She liked it. She'll go with her. Young lady. I mean, they agree with it. The return is not accepted. All he wants is that boy with the gray hair. One child will be enough for them. The remaining girls will go to Chairman OG, so he will take the other 2 children. He organized a great job, and it's all thanks to Noggle and his monkey fist. And he was fearless. What would happen if the skull caught him? The man said he would be careful. He definitely should. She has things to do, so he'll go. And that's when Hero approached Bari. Let him convey his best wishes to Chairman Ogu. She said she'd pass it on. Then they left with their children. Was he still uncomfortable around Bari? Or what? He's been loyal to the chairman his whole life, so he likes him better anyway. There is a difference between forwarders and friends, but Bari is surprisingly emotional. May he be careful on the way home. He leads, told not to address him so formally. Better no longer a representative of blue blood. A person who becomes a member of blue blood, once a member of blue blood, remains a member of blue blood forever. Some people think so, some people don't. Suddenly, Mrs. Lucy came to them. She said his darling kept wanting to play a prank on this kid. She's already so close that he calls her darling. Let him know how lucky she is. He's such a simpleton. But Lucy chose him. It's horrible. Blue blood's selling babies. How can he remember everything after he's been tranquilized? He can hear everything, even when he's asleep. Even if you tell the townspeople about it, no one will believe what they hear even in their dreams. It's blue blood. Blue bloods are a river of blood for the entire city. To be honest, I wouldn't believe his story either if I wasn't locked up here. Then it turns out that girl Yura was here too. Then stay there, girl, and it's all good. Lucy loves kids, doesn't he? Then why is he working here? Because he's a boy. She only likes girls. He got goosebumps. Let him not worry. If he obeys orders unquestioningly, he will not be used as a token. We'll have to run as soon as she finds out where Yura is. The man noticed that they were working hard and talking a lot. I think he'd been told to obey orders without question. He's so tired. The kid asked him if he had powers. And what other powers do you have at his age? The question was a strange one, not knowing what kids are thinking. Lucyland is a place that even the most hardened criminal couldn't escape from. It's a place where other kids might have been able to get out, but would still get lost in this building that is like a maze. It's impossible. They'll see about that. He's gonna get Yura out of here, no matter what. Let Lucy have a cup of tea. She's done a great job today. How could she offer tea? She should have taken care of her beloved. She's so nervous because she's the favorite. Lucy said they were perfect, but she must remember that they have to be perfect. Right, they have to be perfect. Let him have some tea. Miss Yura. Of course, the girl was unhappy in this position. The principal was going somewhere at that moment. Then someone stopped him. The guy asked the old man what he was carrying and if he knew it was his neighborhood. So let him give half of it as duty. You know, like a handshake. He can't believe this kid is running the group. It's amazing. The director said sure. It's a deal. And he'll go with him and call him, what's his name? Hajin. Where does an old man get that kind of strength? He can't even fight back. They're all adults now, so they can take care of themselves. Prisoners of the OO Code. Does he have one last thing to say to us? Teacher Kim scrutinized everything she did around him. Teacher Kim said it's more like no execution. It's for some show. That was right. She told him her execution was the biggest event. Her show. So many people gathered at Lucyland just to see the famous blue-blooded killer. The public is always looking for a new experience. What do you mean impressions? Of course, the idols were not of blue blood. So what? Times change. So it will be demonstrated to them as well. His beautiful, pain-filled screams, and then abruptly the cannon started firing at him. His grandfather had always said she had to be perfect to be a blue-blooded woman capable of ruling the city. She followed all of her grandfather's instructions daily and practiced hard, not forgetting her logical needs. Some time passed and her grandfather died suddenly. She felt for the first time what others call freedom. Life was especially agonizing for a family that had lost its footing. Tired, she was nothing more than welcome prey. Her time to confront external threats and instability had passed, and then the realization came to her that life under someone else's control was perfect. So she split her personality into Hazel and Lucy, controlling each other. She was reborn as a perfect being. Blue bloods, frankly, it's just an overrated relic of the past. It's bigotry, like worshipping some god associated with Chairman Hero that came along around the same time. Back in the day, it was still understandable. But she's different from them. She achieved all of this by her own efforts, and they achieved it with the help of their grandfather. She has to show these poor townspeople what control means. That is her mission. That's the kind of perfection he longed for, isn't it? One day, unexpectedly, there was some trouble in her perfect world. At that moment, something happened. This guy in the red mask got out. Why didn't he give in? She tried everything. Fire, electricity, firearms, vacuum bombs, guillotine. It's only got scratches on it. The girl began to worry. The girl recognized the red man. After fighting Chairman OG, bullets no longer penetrate his body. It has become so strong that it doesn't even need to regenerate. Anyway, I asked her why she'd stopped talking. She'd run out of ideas on how to kill him. Then he'd find her. At that moment he kicked in a healthy door. They have a big problem. A prisoner has left the arena. What should they do? Have them gather all the puppets and stop him? Suddenly someone said to stop him. All villains who violate the laws of Lucyland will be punished. This was the supreme judge of Lucyland and the judge of Lucyland. It's a full court offense and defense against Lucy all rolled into one. What kind of defense are we talking about? It's just a distraction. It's time to use this puppet. Although the mayor stopped Dr. Naglu, he still continued to experiment on humans to create organic weapons. Black's series was one of the best among the other organic brands he created. Good, he gave this specimen to her because of his defect, lack of personality. If she uses her ability, the perfect puppet, giving personality to this organic weapon, but it will be reborn into something perfect. At this moment, the judges began to attack Teacher Kim, but Teacher Kim dispatched them in a matter of seconds. This inmate massacred all of the Marines. This is the guy who killed the chairman, so it's no surprise how beautifully folded his clothes are. They were lent to him, so he can't lose them. He found his clothes, but where to look for this woman, and then someone appeared behind him. The full hero turned around to see who it was. Teacher Kim couldn't figure out what else it was. The creature was looking at him at that moment, and on the screen that was attached to it, a woman appeared and started saying that the prisoner had ruined her perfect life. He destroyed the seleniums so that now they cannot be rebuilt. He's destroyed all the Marine. So other than her, she has nothing left to lose. He ruined Lucy's show. He came in and broke all the boundaries of what's allowed in the city of the Blue Moon. The girl was in a lot of pain. Teacher Kim realized that she had Lucy tonight on this stage, and the two of them will disappear, either she or he. The puppet began to attack Teacher Kim. Then there was a very powerful explosion. The guards did not expect this and were unable to resist. Then all the prisons flew out the windows. There was silence. The puppet was trying to attack the protagonist at this point, and 2 options isn't too many. She'd already had so many chances to kill him. She kept singing about how perfect she was, and yet she failed. This can't be happening. And then Teacher Kim attacked the puppet. The creature threw its body back. The impact was green, and his body punched several holes. Just then he found himself in a room with a woman and a girl. The main character's punch was indeed powerful. He will leave her with only one option. She will be alone, buried in her Lucy land. Who to her was Dr. Shaw. It's over. The teacher asked the girl what she would do. She said she couldn't sleep. She said if you go that way, you'll come to a slum. So why doesn't anyone come to school from there? He doesn't know exactly whether it's rumors of a monster living here or rumors of a large mountain animal. But there's nothing like that here, some weird rumors. When asked if she wanted tea, the girl replied that she did. As it turned out, the rumors were right after all, and there really was a monster living there. The monster was looking off into the distance at this moment. The man yawned at this time. He said he was very bored. Everyone went to record Chairman OG's farewell ceremony, and he had to loiter here. It's hard to believe that a documentary about the exterior of a prison has been in production for a month. Who the hell would even come up with such an idea? Here's the document. This surprised the man. Suspicious vehicle was moving towards the criminal gate. Have them shoot to stop it. They started shooting at the car. Suddenly, a car tore down the fence. Then she stopped inside. People quickly ran out of it. Teacher Panda said that there are fewer guards outside than usual because Kim made a mess inside. We have to go there quickly. Now through that door. Tang Se was feeling very anxious at this moment and thought that if the cops broke into the prison, her life would definitely be over. The girl told him to cover her body, watch her closely and talk to her so she wouldn't fall asleep. The reason why an ordinary passenger car was able to break through the thick wall of the prison was because of Rai's ability called Night Hunter. This ability grants incredible strength and maneuverability to any object the girl touches. However, its range is limited to the front of the object, while the back of the object remains vulnerable. Also, the girl can't maintain the effects of her ability for long, as the side effect is excessive sleepiness. If she falls asleep, they could both die. The man began to scrutinize what was going on. Inside the mines, people couldn't figure out if it was an earthquake or something else. Why everything was shaking. Suddenly, the guard shot into the air. He told everyone to focus on their work and not to leave their workstations without authorization. Anyone who moves will be severely punished. At that moment, someone hit him from behind. It was Yura. The guy recognized her right away. The girl said she had come here to get him out. The guy in turn asked if she was hurt. She replied that it was okay. It was no big deal, because Lucy had done it. How dare they even dare to go against the Blue Bloods? That's the girl who was with Lucy. The man started telling them to be careful. Don't let her think she can get away with it just because Lucy cares about her. And then Hajin became furious. He started to turn into something. Then he turned into a huge wolf. After that, he drove him into the ground and grabbed him. He then asked who the man was pointing the gun at and called him a clown. The girl noticed this and told her not to worry. It was just his ability. He should have been the first to come and save her. She doesn't have the ability, so why would she take such a risk? She just wanted to help him, because they're family. We need to get out of here first, then we can talk about it. Lucy Land is like a maze. We must proceed with caution. This is no longer a problem. As the building was destroyed during the battle between Red Man and Lucy, the man took an interest in the Red Man. Let him get out of here, it's their chance to escape. It turned out that she was alive. Teacher Kim looked at his hand at that moment. He lost his arm in an instant. Yura, barely freed, immediately set out to rescue Hajin. He didn't want to let her go alone, so he dealt with Lucy and was going to go after her. However, he was attacked by two people who appeared out of nowhere. The severed arm was instantly restored, and the clothes are recovering too. It's just amazing. It's not that surprising. There are quite a few monsters outside the city walls with the ability to regenerate quickly. They should be more careful, because next time the stranger won't let him use regeneration. Who are they, anyway? Let them stay out of his way. Let him not be so rude. They just couldn't help but intervene, seeing him trying to kill their associate. Teacher Kim explained that they were of blue blood. The man said that the blue blood representative was the chairman of the arm of the Titan Bandil, and the other is Fondle's freezer chairman. Noggle said that the result of his experiment had been destroyed, so he immediately rushed here and even arrived on time. He doesn't usually meddle in other people's business, but he doesn't think this fight is fair. House wreaked havoc in the city, so he should have been punished a long time ago. He's dangerous, so we need to deal with him as soon as possible. Multiple chairmen at once is not good. Can't even imagine being in that situation. He had been doing well up to this point. He should have felt a sense of accomplishment after destroying one of the blue bloods. One of the pillars of this city, Hiro and Lucy, with whom he had fought before, were not combatants. The aging OG was not in the best moral and physical condition. The city, bereft of its pillars, is in turmoil and loses motivation to continue living. His fight with him will be different. Let him charge the Ziguli, but he hasn't aged and has managed to keep his body from his heyday. Let him attack. Rebel Godchild. The representative of the blue blood will punish any evil himself, so this will be his last fight. These mountains are his territory. Haven't they heard the rumors? If he eats a lot of people, they won't come here again. The guy told him to visit them and they would never come here again. After a while of this, no one else would come here, and he could go back to sleep. At that moment, he noticed that the girl had noticed him. Of course, she was confused. That's what Son sees. She ran to the teacher and he asked if she was having nightmares again. There were 3 moons outside. He asked her to keep it down. Alright, let them attack. You filthy rebel descendants. He, as a member of blue blood, will punish any evil himself, so this will be his last fight. What do you mean he's aware of the whole situation if he still dares to say such a thing? Yes, he was aware that there had been a kidnapping, but the children they took away had a chance at a life of meaning. One of the girls was turned into medicine, the other was kept as a toy. They call that a chance? A chance! He's the hero of this town. How can he be like the man inside? The man asked if he considered himself righteous, but good citizens who had nothing to do with the situation still suffered from his actions. It's like setting fire to a forest to catch a tiger. The man said enough moralizing. He's not going to bring Mara back. Although he's pretty calm, he'd make a great town leader. He'll take Mara, no matter what. If he takes her away, how weak will it be to live on the streets now? He told the man to shut up. What does he even know? After that, Teacher Kim attacked him. The impact between them was very strong indeed. The man was greatly surprised. Their fists didn't even touch, but the shockwave was incredibly powerful. To create this kind of airflow, you need to swing your fists on both sides with tremendous force. In other words, this bandit is as good as it gets. It's a good thing the fight isn't in the city. After that, the city would have been destroyed for sure. Okay, so he killed Chairman OG with this. That's power. That's what will scare him and finish him off. After that, Teacher Kim began to launch a series of attacks. Teacher Kim tried his best. The man laughed and said it would be a sensation, and exclusive only on their channel. And then he noticed something near him. Then abruptly the ground beneath him failed. The man was very much surprised by this. A stream of air suddenly rushed out of the ground, forming a hole. Teacher Kim was furious at this moment. He continued to deliver a string of attacks. Suddenly the man attacked the guy. Teacher Kim noticed that he was strong, even skinned him. No matter how strong a man is, it won't last long. And then he realized that the man had attacked him from behind. After that, the man just attacked him. The man was surprised that Teacher Kim had ducked. After that, he wanted to use some technique. He then literally froze Guru Kim. Teacher Kim realized that with this ability, there was no way he could dodge. Isn't that an interesting ability? In the city, I used the principles of my abilities to create a deep freeze freezer, the man said. The man was confident in his actions. He then began to attack Teacher Kim. It was at this moment that Teacher Kim came out of the ice, and then the man's fist flew practically right next to the guy. Teacher Kim caught the attack with his hands. Teacher Kim then repelled the attack. The man was all astonished when he saw it. What's that all about anyway? He thought. Teacher Kim looked at the man. Not bad, but he clearly doesn't have much experience to deal with him quickly. Teacher Kim thought to himself. He was open to the villain's attack. The main villain, of course, noticed this. After that, he was attacked. Teacher Kim noticed that the man had ripped his arms off. After that, he began to fall. The man then nailed it directly to the wall. Teacher Kim sighed heavily at this moment. Regeneration manifested as an ice spear burst out from his body. Didn't I tell you that I can recover quickly even from attacks like this? He asked. He could still regenerate, albeit very slowly, but he didn't think he could be killed by normal attacks. Why don't you use your powers? Or haven't you used them yet? He said. The bandit said he was going to use his powers. After that, lightning began to appear in the sky. Let Volcanus answer my call, he shouted. Suddenly someone shouted. Lava was everywhere. This isn't a volcano, so where did the lava come from? Everyone wondered. The boy asked his grandfather if he knew what it was. It was Volcanus, the weapon of one of the Blue Bloods, Bandil. It is a weapon so dangerous that it is forbidden to use it at any time other than a military one. This weapon is linked to his abilities and is the embodiment of them. It doesn't matter how survivable he is, because even immortality won't help him here. At Volcanus' verdict, he will simply cease to exist. The girl was running somewhere. It's expensive to furnish such a huge space under the city. It's kind of a dark hobby of hers. It was now that the guy came out to her. Of course, she was surprised and frightened, thinking it was a monster. She thought, who is she, anyway? She doesn't look like a prison guard. The girl noticed something up there. She asked the girl if her name was Yura, and then something happened in the building. The girl told Teacher Kim that he was great at drawing, because he taught children drawing, so he practiced all the time. With this information, they will be much easier to find. Let her finish him off. Okay, but how is she going to kill him? He asked. With this hammer. If she just takes Volcanus in her hands, it will melt them with its heat, she replied. It's okay, my puppet will take him, the girl said. The man simply remained silent at this point. This is for him for all the humiliation I went through because of him, she added. Make him disappear. At this moment, they attacked Teacher Kim. Of course, Teacher Kim felt unbearable pain at this moment. Teacher Kim shouted loudly at this very moment. Of course, the girl enjoyed watching him suffer. At that moment, someone cut her strings that she used to control the puppet. The girl couldn't figure out what it was. Then she saw the map in front of her. The guy said that she had tremendous strength, and if he were to delay even a little longer, Teacher Kim would definitely turn into ashes. Is he in league with this villain? After all, he's a Rogel, a murderer, she wondered. As expected of a warden, her eyesight is as fine as herself. No, I'm not in league with him. I'm simple but clever, replied the lad. Let him wait. The villain disappeared in a flash. She barely made it. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. You're still alive, the guy said. Teacher Kim recognized the girl and asked if she had found Ramo. The girl asked, is that your first question? She replied, the girl and Hyeonjong were saved because of him. It was a great adventure. How unreasonable. Even he can't overpower the minds of other blue bloods, she said. The girl suggested getting out of here. The townspeople wouldn't chase them if they left the city limits, and then we could figure out how to rescue the other children. Saving children, not revenge, she added. Teacher Kim said that's not exactly true. If I can't protect my kids from visible threats, what's the point of all this anyway? He explained, that's why I'm retaliating, to give everyone a good explanation of why you can't hurt children. The girl simply remained silent at this point. What kind of teacher is he? She thought. Let him recuperate here and she would buy him some time. But you already have no reason to fight for the children here. So I'm not going to fight for the children. You're the one I'm going to fight for, she said. Teacher Kim was surprised by her words. Rajul laughed. He had managed to distract them, but what to do next? So she didn't run away, he thought. When the girl came in, she was named White. He recognized her right away. Unlike Cha Min, how can he even compare his wedding ring to a naive one? How can he not recognize the employee he himself trained? Even though her appearance and behavior have changed dramatically, she wasn't the same anymore. Now her name was Panda. The name was chosen to sever ties with him, wasn't it? Didn't their connection break when he retired? The girl told the guy to take care of Lucy. He replied that it would be easy. The bandit noticed that they seemed to know each other. Maybe he could deal with her, but be careful. She wasn't particularly strong. However, he never managed to overpower her. After these words, the man began to attack. The girl was also serious. After that, the girl began to fend off the man's attack. Bandil was surprised that she easily fended off Fortin's attacks. He didn't realize what her abilities were, but they could cause a lot of trouble. He needs to get rid of her as soon as possible. After that, the man was ready to attack. Of course, the girl noticed it immediately. The The man was already approaching her at this moment. The girl then attacked the man. She reacted to his attack at top speed. Moreover, she anticipated his moves during the confrontation with Forden. Her sense of combat is admirable. I wonder how she'll handle that punch. The girl was starting to get nervous. Just then, a hero showed up. Teacher Kim noticed the man at that moment. However, he hasn't fully recovered yet, but to that he said it doesn't matter. Their forces were equal, so there's a balance to be struck here too, which is encouraging. The man, of course, was furious. He was bleeding for the first time. The man said that Teacher Kim would die in agony. Teacher Kim replied that he was going to say the same thing. Faden was ready to attack. A few seconds later, he attacked the girl. He then froze the girl, turning the ice into the shape of a rose. She said ice doesn't work on her and he knows it. She was right, he knows it well. However, it's still hard to reflect. It was too much. It's hard for them to use their full power because she's around Bandel all the time. It was really hard on her part. What a clever old man. She should be more careful. The main group was furious. The bandit, accordingly, was also furious. The man was ready to attack Master Kim. He attacked him, but he easily dodged it. After that, Guru Kim himself attacked him. The man was surprised that he was able to dodge his attack. This guy knows how to duck in time. Despite all his strength, he lacks foresight. Something white now compliments him in. It's gotten noticeably better than before. Then Teacher Kim along with the girls attacked him. The bandit started coughing up blood at this point. Then the man went into a rage. After that, the man attacked again. You couldn't see anything because of the smoke, but as it turned out, the main character was alive. He was surprised he was able to block such a blow. The man was also quite surprised. She increased her strength in his body with her abilities. Now Teacher Kim has noticed something. He can't move. He seems to have gone beyond his limits, causing his body to weaken. We'll have to give him a break. The man has slowed down quite a bit actually. He had been a flawlessly victorious warrior all his life, thanks to whom the war was won. But now, for the first time, he's not just wounded, but also close to defeat. Related, Lucy found herself in the same position. He thought she was weak, covering herself with a broken puppet, but she's doing pretty good. Turns out something with her hands is actually more comfortable. Make him shut up. No hand, you idiot. It was hurtful, but who cares? After all, pretty soon there will be nothing left of her if things keep going the way they are. If things keep going like this, he can't believe he's on his knees. Kim's teacher told the girl that it was just fine. Her kick was smarter than before. The man said he couldn't do it alone. They had to work together. He is a hero, having single-handedly given over 10,000 victories on the battlefield. So why should he lose to these two? He will destroy this place with them. Let them become Yura and Hanjin, now underground. The man, of course, was still ready to attack. After that, a guy showed up and bit the man. He said something about the center of gravity. They'll see what's wrong with the place. He's already got a family kidnapping. At that moment, outside, lava stepped outside, and then the car flipped instantly. Teacher Kim said in surprise, "Well, what was that?" More craziness. The bandit didn't understand where the brute had come from. How dare it distract him? After that he hit him. He fell down. He was very much surprised. And then he noticed Hanjin in front of him. It's a boy. He's seen him before. Teacher Kim became furious after that. He said, "Who's that guy?" And the man asked, "Or is it his child?" It doesn't matter if it's a child who died. An adult if he's obstructing justice. He's a villain. After that, they attacked again at the same time. Teacher Kim seemed to start falling apart at this moment. Then Bandel's weapon simply broke. Of course, he hadn't expected this turn of events. After that, Teacher Kim began to attack him. The man didn't know what to do. How can he, who has killed so many people, talk about justice? But if he is the epitome of justice in this society, he's willing to be the villain. If the public is in favor of it, Teacher Kim came up through it all. Everyone was watching him closely. The man was literally impaled at this point. Teacher Kim said he would destroy them all. He'll destroy them all. The girl and the guy were watching him, and he hadn't fought that monster yet. A true miracle he survived. Only lost an arm. That's when the guy noticed something falling on him. It was, in fact, Lucy's puppet. The guy noticed the girl running away and asked, "Where is she going?" In the end, he'll just run in shamefully, see if he can find a way out of this concrete cage. The man pulled out his cell phone at that moment. He dialed a number and said it was him. Well, it was over. The Blue Bloods lost. A man was banging hard on someone's door. He asked the chairman, or did he call for him? It was the chairman of a fist monkey named Skull who told the man to sit down. He had tea on his desk. Dude was relaxing. Skull asked why he wasn't drinking. Thought he put poison in it or something? He was just wondering if he was having fun sneaking friendships with high-ranking people. The man began to worry at this point. He heard he brought the kids. From behind the wall he did what the mayor hates most. Does he have a brain in his head instead of a brain? Why would he do that? What's he talking about? There's executive comedy involved, isn't there? How long do they have to wait for the Blue Bloods before they never show up? He's sorry, but the Blue Bloods aren't coming, and he's here why? In the moment, brothers from our construction appeared, greeting the Lord High of the steering committee. I'm surprised the guy is right. Came out after the blacklisting behavior. Did they really call him here? He said they were called here by the skull. This is the first time he's used his authority. What was the reason he called them? He drew his gun and asked what the reason was. All this to clean up the trash. The guy started being asked what he was doing. Wasn't he afraid of Bandil? And why should he be afraid of someone who is no longer in this world? He does it because it is his desire. Because that's Skull's order. After that, he killed them all. Enough of a committee in the case to deal with him if possible. He kinda heard that you didn't originally blacklist this one for me. Even if it's their handiwork, there's still a lot of people behind something like this. But he's offended, so all he has to do now is to come up with a punishment for him? The man was very much surprised. After that, Skull ducked down from his seat. The man began to run away at this point. How the hell did he know about all this? I mean, he was careful not to let any information leak out. The skull was already above him. Then it landed right on top of him. He had to kill him. Kill him. When he saw him running away, he lost any desire to give him another chance. The girl asked what was wrong with Hajin. Lost consciousness, but only a couple scratches. The holding man told the villain that the fight wasn't over. He hasn't lost yet. He can't accept this result. For the hero, this is just another test and a step towards personal growth. The man told Forden to go over to him and help him. Again, he's acting as he pleases. He suggested that they corner this villain again, as they had done originally, or they can use this child to limit his opportunities and justice will prevail in the end. He's already lost, so where does he get this reluctance to admit defeat from that his mouth won't shut? The man was surprised that Forden didn't back him up. His notion of justice proved to be flawed, but he himself had lost the fight, though he was so proud of his victories, and now his resplendent body crumbled at the wave of his hand. He said goodbye to his longtime colleague. They had not been close, so he would pray for his repose. Everyone present was surprised at this turn of events, and then the guy yelled Lucy's name. How do you run fast in those shoes? She noticed he was still following her. If she got outside, she could get away from him. Seems like a tough situation. Now she noticed Baekhwa in front of her. He was, however, fired for leaving his guard post company and was reinstated. Good thing there's this hitman here trying to kill her. We'll stop him. The guy saw Baekhwa policeman at that moment. Did that rabid dog really get here? Why him? Because he's a police officer, protecting the citizens. That's how it works for the security ministry too. Isn't she above him? Then have him listen to her carefully. That was an order. He didn't want to talk it up because it would look like bragging, but he solved over 1,000 cases, behind all sorts of awards and trophies. This is the best time to talk. If it weren't for one attack, I could be a blue blood and chief of police. Did she know why exactly he was appointed beard guard and called graves for those who got promoted? The girl didn't know what he was talking about, and then came the realization. Afterward, he reached out his hand toward her. Then he killed her. Rajal hadn't expected this turn of events. Rebellion against his superiors can't stand the bastards above him. Fondle was standing beside his former partner at that moment. Teacher Kim asked, "What is the meaning of this? How can they see he betrayed the Blue Bloods? Does he think he's going to let him just walk away? Just because he decided to push to the side? Change girls?" He offered to listen to him first. He's a pretty cold person and she has a residual distaste for him because he was her boss. But thinks she'll talk to me. He thanked her for taking his side. He'd said something was wrong when they worked together. Hadn't I turned out to be right every time? She herself said she'd handed out related cases to him, yet she still took offense. He's such a jerk. Can she kill him? Forden residence. The policeman cried. He was glad that Teacher Kim was okay. He was worried when the lava began to erupt from the ground. The girl said he had been worried in his life, but he started arguing and said she was sleeping in the car. Yeah, if it wasn't for her superpower, he would have fried in that car. Teacher Kim thanked the two of them at that moment. He would have lost if they hadn't gotten there in time. He was able to win because of their help. I mean, he always said he was on Henham's side. They finally showed their first result. Someone greeted them and said they would be meeting again pretty soon. That was Detective Aston. Asked if he worked for Forden. Detective laughed and said no. His goal is the same as Mr. Forden's, so they cooperate. That's about the same as him helping him, and him for sure. Man, what kind of man does he want to consider this town? To be honest, the gentleman's methods are not very fair. They have to consider the atmosphere of the community. It's better to shut up themselves or find out all the details. The protagonist approached him at that moment. What can he do? Is thank him? Why would he betray the blue blood that he himself is? Even if he doesn't talk about them, he hates them all. They never took a single picture together. If he could, he'd have left the blue bloods even sooner. The mayor had him keep an eye on the rest of the blue bloods. They had already met them, had an idea of what kind of people they were. They should never have been given power in the first place. In society, a person's character is disproportionate to his skills. In most cases, people with ability were favored. Like I was this time. They really crossed the line. Marzi, they're all kids, even street kids. Though only a few people of the entire city have seen the mayor's. He seems to be very different from the image she had envisioned. Whatever she imagines herself to be, she's never met a kinder person than me in her new life. I'd like to get back to the city right away and fix this problem. And where is he now? Very far away from here. Unknown. In the middle of nowhere. Beyond the city and the street. Just so they understand, the street still exists only because of the sacrifices made. He understood all that, so he remained as much a member of the Blue Bloods as he wanted to be. All he could do was pretend to be with them, and occasionally meddle in their affairs. However, there was a problem. Someone of blue blood, whom he did not particularly sympathize with, began to threaten him and his family. They are all horrible, so he prepared a plan to destroy them all instead of looking for the culprit. But there he was, in the first place, all sorted out. If he had fought in earnest, it would have been over before Panda arrived. What kind of model did that? He ended up participating in the kidnapping. 2. What do you mean, kidnapping? He took the child he was supposed to take, and thank him for defeating Bandil, and for being with the principal. The lunar hero now realized what the man meant. For her and the principal taking care of his granddaughter. Miri, she greeted the teacher in white Ani. This is Leniza, her granddaughter, who attended their school. The girl said she was very sorry. Teacher Kim asked what was going on here. Panda thought that one of Teacher Kim's drawings showed a girl who looked a lot like Leniza. It was really her. Teacher Kim was with them so deep in the mountains that even like Chuba no one knew who would go to such a place to kidnap children. Should have been the kidnapper's initial approach to take Leniza. You can't be so picky. Bek's son Appa needs to change his clothes before going to bed. Did he sleep well? Miri was initially distinguished from other children by her good manners. So how did she end up at Teacher Kim's school? Doesn't he know that the girl's parents were in a car accident? He figured it wasn't just an accident, so he decided to send the girl to safety. He happened to hear a rumor that the old men who keep the school were having a second study, and decided to sneak a visit. During their conversation he seemed like a good man. He too was sorry for his death. Instead, the girl's location was classified, so the fact that her kidnapper means the culprit of it all is a W with his powers. That's entirely possible. The girl felt guilty about what had happened, so she asked him to save the other children. However, he refused because everyone was too strong at that point. It would have been too risky. Maybe he is a coward. He's the reason the principal's dead. The kids are in danger now. He knows he's responsible. Teacher Kim just walked past him at that moment. Guru Kim then began to recall all the moments related to children and beyond. Then he walked over to the girl, and she apologized to the teacher if she didn't come to school. Teacher Kim apologized to her. He then said he knew nothing at all about her situation. She was the youngest of the group and needed care the most. She must have been anxious and sad, and he could really feel it. Never did anything for her. Teacher Kim hugged her again and apologized. He was sorry. Inside some church, someone couldn't believe that Bandila had lost. It was unexpected, but she expected Fortin's betrayal. He'd be even stronger than before. The bandit and OG who had restrained him were dead. Now that she has found a replacement for the man's granddaughter, he no longer needs her. She saw the future because of it. This city, the whole world would change, but not everyone would make it to the new world. The boy walked by his grandfather and asked if he wanted to get rid of his tangled hair by destroying it. He was thinking of leaving them longer. Then they all met with the teacher, and he was even more of a director than theirs. Not surprised by his appearance, Auntie Panda explained everything in advance. Grandpa was just watching them at this point. He's not the man he knew. He thought he'd be the same age as Bandil. She tried to bring the teacher to her senses. She was in such a state because of being called auntie. There has been a great deal of change in the city since they entered the residence. The video of the purple prison explosion has been released. At the same time, information was revealed about unjustly convicted people who had set up their own organization in the city and inserted their defense. That's when Detective Aston went to the broadcasting station that released the news. He said the time had come, but what was the time for? Also, Uncle Kim's kid named Maru is back. Looks like Zipper contacted his insider at the hands of the Titan to do so. Because of this incident, clashes broke out inside the hands of Titanium between a group of Bandle supporters and opponents. And now she is. The girl was telling her sister that they were going somewhere. She decided to go home too. After she found Ramo, the head of the trendy neighborhood, handsome, suddenly asked them to come back. That was the end of their story. This is the point where Rajal walked in and asked why they weren't looking for him. They both looked at him at that moment. He came back, pouting as he ran in as soon as the opportunity arose. Do they even know how much he suffered because of them? He found the remaining children, the protagonists, of course, immediately recognized Sonen and Baksun. Well, this is the moment the guy asked, "Who is he?" He would have reacted the same way. He killed Lucy while he was stalking her, after which he said he was headed to, and asked me to follow him. It was Nagel's lab after all. Bekwa saved the kids in the slum. What about Nagel? He escaped. That's the moment the man called out to the red-headed man. He said they didn't know each other. Let him give him a crack at it once. Let her keep her head. She's sure to find her family. Teacher Kim held out his hand. Then the man stopped. After that, he just turned around. He said they would consider the debt to have been discharged. The girl asked, did the two of them know each other? He only remembered knocking him out at the main gate. The man at that moment was thinking about what he needed to hold on to. Tang Se was very much surprised that the man was alive. He advised the man to grab his head and asked him how he was talking to him. And why was he next to that redhead hanging around? The guy was begging for a chance to explain everything. It was raining outside. Someone's hand climbed out of the mud. What kind of bastard buried him in the ground? And then he realized something. He was in the cemetery at that moment. He was too careless, only knocked out by one punch to the face. He was hungry. He hadn't eaten anything in a while. He needed to get some food first. A few days later, why can he find safely hidden ledger companies but can't find any food? It's really a slum. And then he noticed the man who was eating. Then he walked right up to him. He said he wouldn't give him food. He's having a hard time too because lately the food trucks have stopped coming from the city. These bottom bastards are all not weak. Bukkas are honor cops. That's why they don't steal or beg. A few more days later, the man collapsed. He didn't realize he was going to die of starvation like that. Some kind of starvation. If he knew he was going to die like that, he would have fought Bandle to see who was stronger. Suddenly a girl found him. He instantly asked if she had anything to eat. And then she started running away and the man started asking her to stop. But the girl fell. Then she started crying. Still, she got back on her feet after a while. He realized that he had just wasted his energy. Now he noticed that she had a grandfather in her hands. Yeah, she put the food on the floor. The man simply remained silent at this point. After a while he ate it all, and he said he would live. Has there really been a school here all this time? This is a school, right? Where's her family? Now she showed the drawing, and he saw the red head there. So this is where the freak lives. The next time he meets him, he'll kill him. After that, the girl started crying. He just laughed and asked if she was crying and said that's what she was doing to him. Let her cry all she wants. 2 hours later, he was already stressed about the situation. He didn't realize how much longer she was going to cry. What was wrong with these soft-bodied creatures? He couldn't go anywhere because it bothered him. He said he wouldn't fight him. Let him come out. She's crying herself to sleep. How is he supposed to lull the baby to sleep if he only knows how to put her to sleep permanently? So that's why Redhead came to town. Was he just listening to someone's story now, even though he'd tortured them into confessing before? I mean, he was the undefeated Bekwa. The moment stood. The girl was close by. He then said he would take those clothes and pay them so that there would be no more shortages of food and clothing. After that, the girl said goodbye to him. The streets. I thought it was just trash. Turns out there are people who live here, too. Some creature was sitting at the table at that moment. I never thought I'd live to see this moment. Bitch! A stranger came here voluntarily. People with superpowers are forbidden access to this sacred office. What's he talking about? He wanted to see it. What interested me in him was what he has in him. His underbelly, his hidden potential. He's good with words. He sought him out, even though they're not particularly close. Was he looking for him for a deal or something? Down with unclean businesses. Don't want to live safely in the city. Recently, there were internal clashes between employees at hands of Titanium. The outskirts of the city, unknown to ordinary citizens, serve as a haven for criminals. After this incident, the city decided to move away from a consequential approach. Life without previous wealth can be difficult and long, and to think that it is a necessary process. From that point on, they cleansed the city of the criminals who have hidden in it. As a result of the investigation, all townspeople will be vetted. No more public deposits can be used as a cover-up. All police officers must follow his orders. At that moment, the man received a text message on his phone. He was very much surprised. Great! The line of inquiry was aimed at the police officers. They have a long voyage ahead of them on this boat, so first they need to get rid of the rotten planks. The message that all police officers had just received was a list of officers to be arrested as a result of his own investigation. He was just a detective. A detective doesn't have the right to dig up the whole city. Suddenly, Tangsei grabbed him and calmed him down. The man didn't understand why he was here, all to arrest him. He saw the list. A license, of course, but he has one. This order was given by the mayor personally, the control agency and the head of the city's security department, Aston. The man was very much surprised by this information. At this point, some other person was looking at the list. He looked back up and realized that the man had taken both of these on the list. He said it's not like that. After all, they saw that the list and the message included him and their beloved Hube. I felt something was wrong with him. He's a goddamn criminal. Started beating him up. Then everyone started killing the people on the list. He can't believe the day has come when he can legally kick them all. It can't get any better than this. For this reason, the police officers were unable to take any action for some time. They are now in their second year at the main temple of the New Galaxies community, run by W. Teacher Kim asked what about Rajal. He accompanied Ryan Ramo on their way to the trendy neighborhood. The New Galaxies community is a religion made for regular people, so there are no people with superpowers here to stop them. The only thing you have to be careful with is a woman's foresight. She knows their every move. And then the doors opened abruptly, as if her works of the future would make any difference. And then Teacher Kim noticed something. Noticed how very many people were praying at this point. At this time in the church, something was going on in there. How did he escape here? In front of them was Noggle, who was saying that had he asked the city he loved to escape to a place far away. The woman greeted them and said she was waiting for them here to pick up the baby or something. Teacher Kim immediately asked her where Tae-shin was. He was sacrificed by the use of her powers. Don't worry, he's not dead. Everyone thinks her abilities lie only in the work, but that's only part of it. In fact, her abilities consist of creating saints, granting power through sacrificing people with abilities. What does she plan to do? It's a dangerous thing. She is going to seal the things of man, the mouth inside the shrine. Not all of them will live happily forever inside the shrine, not like the child named Tae-shin. Forden, don't you know? There are plenty of unimaginable monsters outside the street, and only the mayor and San Banul are keeping them out of town. The mayor's alright, but what about Sang Bunal? He's just a man, too. If it snows even once, the city's in jeopardy. And so she decided to lock inside this piece of jewelry. She said it would be an ark for everyone. The community also needs a god that can trump the mayor. They will not now witness the birth of a new world. Just at that moment, someone killed her. Of course, the price dropped after that. Everyone was very much not expecting this turn of events. It was Noggle who had been there for a very long time. Although she could see the future, her ability was so negligible that she could only see the approximate outcome. That was why she didn't expect to die in vain like this. It's a weak commitment. You thought she was on her side just because she was hostile to them? Will take advantage of this sanctuary? Teacher Kim was looking at him at this moment. Figured it wasn't just an accident, so he decided to send the girl to safety. In this society, a person is not measured by skills. In most cases, the mayor favored those with power. Aren't those powers interesting? In the city, he used the principle of his abilities to create a deep freeze freezer. Noggle said that the result of his experiment had been destroyed, so he immediately rushed over and arrived on time. Black's series is considered one of the best of the other organic weapons he created. He removed this copy due to a defect in the form of a lack of personality. Although the mayor had approached a doctor who was experimenting on humans to create organic weapons, the floor moves quite like an elevator. They killed a guard named Baek Kwa. Although he wasn't particularly decent, he was a good man. The guy in the suit is the doctor he saw before. Because they were hugging, the information remained. Nice to meet you. He's a scientist sent by the Blue Moon. They can't call him Noggle. Lenise's location is the reason. So the fact that ours was kidnapped means that women are the culprits in all of this. So who's the culprit? All of it? All this time it was him. The doctor laughed at this point and asked Guru Kim, just now realizing all this? He kidnapped Rich Fortin's granddaughter to gain that power. He used specialists for the kidnapping. The involvement of the Blue Bloods, the pillars of this city, ensures that there is no hardship. Do they know his technology? He could make medicine for Chairman OG on an industrial scale. It went exactly as he had planned. The granddaughter of man, and he never needed their presence. That became just one of the variables. The result was satisfactory. Do they feel the saturated energy? The woman, of course, said what kind of power it was. So how does he use it? And then the man tore out of his seat. He then proceeded to attack the doctor. The doctor knew he would miss this opportunity. He has to finish him off before he realizes what he's capable of. After that, he just ran through it. The man was surprised that his sword went through him, and then he attacked again, but the doctor repelled his attacks with ease. And now he's blocked the punch. Then how can he do that? Watched closely yesterday, he tried his best to beat it. The doctor then asked, or had he already finished his show? At this point, after that came the rage, and he began to tear it away. Then he just pinned it to the ground. Teacher Panda began to worry about the man. Also, has anyone, noble as he is, fallen? Then he lifted the man up, then stabbed it into the ground again. The doctor began to laugh loudly and sinisterly. Then someone decided to attack. It was Teacher Kim with a girl on the pair. Lest he be overpowered by some street scum, he betrayed the Blue Bloods and joined them. In the end, he has no new choice but to deal with everything himself. What is he going to do with that power? Let him clear something up. He hates the mayor. Last year one of the released test subjects was tearing his eyes, nose, mouth. The mayor said the following: disappointing. I mean, he's forbidden to hold such promises, things to experiment on. Let him not treat these wounds, but let them serve to remind him of my deeds. If he chooses to treat them, he will punish him personally. He is no longer a member of the Blue Bloods. He did his research for the future of the city. I mean, he worked so hard for him and for the city. How could he do this to him? He only did all this because he doesn't like the mayor. The man laughed and said he was just kidding. He wants to be on top of humanity. It's a lust for conquest. They also set the table in time, inciting people to revolt. Then the red man showed up, which was the reason it didn't work out. Well, it's gonna be different now because she still has that powerful force. Enough talking, it's time to say goodbye. That's when he started to do something. The girl was sure she would stop him. After that, she used density, then tried to stand on that sphere. She's really got it going on after all, but she realized that density doesn't work. His power erases everything it touches. Teacher Kim, when he saw this, immediately saved the girl. He told her to step back. He has now decided to stop the sphere, and then he noticed that the orb had passed through him. What a lot of trouble he's caused. Now Teacher Kim was going to hit him. He managed to break something after all. Well, that's when he's so backed up. It was very curious, he was able to break through a barrier with ease that Ford had found impossible. It turned out to be Teacher Kim himself. Let him disappear from this world. Teacher Kim told the man to stop. He didn't realize what else it was. He was really starting to disappear. He started screaming loudly. Oddly enough, after a while, Teacher Kim completely disappeared. Pondering, the girl started shouting his name at that moment, but the girl couldn't move either. That's how he now understood the power of the shrine. With the ability, he can control space as he wishes. If used correctly, it can also control time. He's really an all-powerful deity now. After that, the doctor started to leave. At this point in the desert, and this time it wasn't easy. Lately, the invasion has only intensified. The man told Mr. Mayor that there was a request for help from the city. It was the deputy mayor of the Blue Moon city of San Banul. Go back and check it out. What a bad time, he thinks, and something dangerous awaits them down there. Something of a monster down there. He's a little situationally aware. Knows there's a good guy in town recently. Is he talking about the guy who took out the Blue Bloods or what? But he hadn't even seen him in person. Seen it a few times. This was before he was born. Suddenly some sounds started coming from directly below. Let it cook and they go back up again. He greets the dear citizens. He's there but Mayor Noggle. He will rid the city of chaos and make it an efficient system. From now on, all low-cost citizens are subject to him. What about the old mayor? And who is he to decide that? They'll throw it in. He doesn't even know. Or they think they have a choice right now. Looks like we'll have to show them fools our authority. Suddenly, spheres began to fall from the sky. Personal freedom only creates pointless conflict. They're all just components that keep society stable. Let them know their place. Fire. They have to protect the garage. And then the bullets started flying. The city was almost completely destroyed. Tang Se was lying on the ground at this moment. He was bleeding from his head, but he tried to get up. Noggle came to the car and said that he was the city gatekeeper who was helping Kim. Does he plan to keep resisting or what? Let her hand over to Guru Kim, as he usually does, and come over to his side. She promises that he will have a comfortable life. Now he tried to take a shot, even though I'm determined right now. But he will fight to protect the citizens and their welfare to the very end. I mean, he said he created a beautiful city, so why does everyone keep resisting? The boy could now watch the sphere coming toward him. Suddenly, someone destroyed the wall. The guy recognized Sunbei. He wouldn't happen to be the same Dr. Noggle that hid, a cowardly rat, while he carried his lab. Back Qua, he began to wonder why he wasn't showing up. Where will he come from? At this point, he quickly immobilizes him. But despite that, he was still able to attack him. The man said it worked. He'd already learned how to deal with people like him. Asshole. The doctor laughed and said, that's how it is. The two with space controlling abilities have the same type of abilities, so he can counter them. The doctor thanked. Thanks to him, I learned something new. Even the strongest Bekwa is powerless to stop him. It was truly amazing. What then? Maybe they'll pick up where they left off. As he wishes. It's kind of disappointing. He's defending the garage. Did he hate them? Please let him stick to his beliefs. Teacher Kim said he didn't originally have such beliefs. He's surprised he's back, even after he wiped him out of this world. Don't change it. Defeat is defeat. He doesn't have time to play with it. But this stopping others' ability, this feeling, what could Henim do against the space manager? At this moment, Teacher Kim went to the doctor. He said it didn't matter how he didn't become into something. Would overpower him? It's not like he can control space. How did he do it? The man said he would not change locations. And then the boy was already observing Teacher Kim beside him. Teacher Kim was somewhere else. And on top of that, they were upside down. This place is a gap in space created by the distortion of reality. He didn't want to turn such a wonderful city into ruins. So I decided to deal with him in this isolated space. What he's saying is that whatever happens here won't affect the outside world. That's a shame. He wanted so badly for the others to see him kill him. How trivial that would be. He began to approach the man at this point. The man simply put up a finger. Then he waved his finger downward. Teacher Kim continued to attack. Just at that moment, a rock began to fall on Teacher Kim. It wasn't clear if the protagonist had noticed him, but despite all this, the stone continued to fall. After a while, the stone fell on Guru Kim. Then a few more rocks began to fall. Noggle, of course, just stood and watched. Good thing he brought them here. He'd given in already 1,000 times each time, thinking she finally overpowered him. This guy keeps fighting like nothing happened. That's not all. It's not like regeneration. It feels like someone is forcibly resetting time. The man really thought about it. Sometimes the emergence of people with capabilities contradicts existing concepts. For example, the ability to release fire from the hand and the concept that it is possible to hold fire there is a huge difference between the two, because in the second case you can create fire of any type and shape. What if his ability is also conceptual rather than physical? What if the body and the mask need to be returned? That's when the man started laughing loudly. He said he realized what his ability was. The concept of time and space are closely related. Space is a substance permeated by time. He apologizes. Up to this point, he thought his ability was pretty unremarkable. Turns out he controls time. After that, he attacked viciously. He still has so many questions about how time and its destructive power are related. If it goes back in time at a certain point, it's perfect for a steering test subject. Let him show what else he can do. After that, inexplicable things began to happen. Now he was plotting inside a few spaces what he would do. Just at this moment, Teacher Kim is only his. Then he attacked once more. He said he was sick of it. The man asked if he had traveled back in time for a moment. The span of action was short, but it was still impressive. He's sick of it, so he's going to go. There was no point in continuing to fight him here. Realizing he couldn't kill him, it would be easier to leave it for the rest of his days. Occasionally coming here to do research, Teacher Kim immediately went after him, but before he could hit him, he disappeared. Teacher Kim was quite surprised by this situation. Would start telling him not to mess with him like that? The teacher will be alright, won't he? That was Yura's voice. The city is so noisy it hurts his ears. It's going to be okay. But they did see the teacher. A huge villain, probably crying right now. He's sorry, but he won't be the one crying. And theirs is not a teacher. He thought for a long time and realized that the worst thing for Teacher Kim would be their death. He thinks Teacher Kim will cry a lot if he rips their heads off one by one and throws them into the space he's trapped in. After that, the doctor began to laugh evilly. He laughs, coming to a rage at this point. The man then began to create an orb. Teacher Kim told him to stop. He's the one who should stop. Does he really think he can destroy a broadcast station by smashing a TV? Teacher Kim abruptly appeared beside him. Of course, he didn't realize what was going on. Who the fuck is he? Fucking time forgot too. Don't worry, time has stopped now. Even this fake mutant god can't avoid it. Teacher Kim asked him, was he a god? Who knows? Originally demons have never even seen a god. They are often mistaken for one. Demo contracts and opportunities is his office. He gives fixers to those who need them. And Panda's friend, and his family member had Din, and Ryan Ramo, and Bandil, and OG. Everyone with powers has been to this place. Teacher Kim said that no one had told him about this place. They had no reason to tell him that because everyone thought he had superpowers too. But those masked powers were his own. So why did he show up in front of them? It seemed to him that he needed help. A professional businessman should be able to sell his goods or services at the most opportune time at the highest price. That he offered to make a deal? Here are the children in danger. He is stuck in an isolated space, unable to do anything at all. He will improve the abilities of his mask. Teacher Kim asked what he wanted in return. Just they're not a fight. Will be over. He'll take the mask away from him. Those abilities weren't originally meant to be used that way. That mask was his only omission. Axes or time. He didn't pay attention to it, but as soon as he started using it, there was a situation where the balance was off. Teacher Kim said in agreement, and the demon was surprised at how quick the answer was. If it helps him save the children, he can take his soul. Tima laughed and said he didn't need his soul. So the contract is made. He is now the axis of time. The man laughed loudly. Just about now the red thread could be observed. The man noticed the red thread as well. After that, some space opened up. The man was very much surprised. Space is a substance. It's permeated with time. Now there's nothing stopping him from penetrating space. Of course, the man was still very much surprised by the whole situation. A red thread pierced through his body. Teacher Kim, of course, was full of rage at this moment. By the way, he started pulling the man towards him. After that, he found himself in space. Teacher Kim immediately attacked him. You could see everything going on inside. There's no point in continuing to fight him here. Realizing he can't kill him, he turned back time. So how did he do it? He didn't feel anything when he killed the other blue bloods, but his confused face is certainly worthy of attention. He rips the mother-in-law bauble inside off his laughing face. Then something strange started happening again. The man, of course, took notice. He asked, "Who is he anyway? He's not a mayor or a citizen, not even off the street, who has made a name for himself in the city. He's not superior in anything, so he can't beat him." He continued to attack. The doctor also became furious, and then they faced their own forces. Then there was a lot of smoke. The man was already armless. Teacher Kim said that he had finally done his deed. "I suggest you start pulling the thing out of a man's forehead." The man then began to fall. He felt unbearable pain. Then they moved on to another location, and then once again moved to another location. Then the main characters pulled the thing out after all. This was all happening right in space. Then Teacher Kim disappeared. It all worked out. Now it's time for them to go back. Suddenly, something began to happen and Teacher Kim began to fall. He realized that his ability wasn't working. He couldn't go back in time. He remembered the demon's words that once their fight was over, he would take the mask from him. He laughed. Their contract was successfully executed. That's the deal. He got what he wanted, so he hopes he has nothing to regret. Teacher Kim began to fall into space. Teacher Kim said that nothing changes. Oh, well. Teacher Kim just continued to fall and closed his eyes. The girl was watching the sky at this moment. The two sisters watched as well. Everyone else was looking up at the sky as well. Rajal lay on the roof and watched as well. The brethren of the art construction also observed. The mayor's aide looked up at the sky. Tang Se was no exception either. All the children were sitting at the table at this point. Teacher Panda, embarrassed, also looked up at the sky. The girl immediately realized that it was Kim in the sky. They could watch it fall from the sky. He was coming right at the city. A short time later it fell, forming a crater. There was a little boy in there. 3 years later, the city of the Blue Moon. What is the ideology of the new city? Equal opportunities for all Europeans. Without discrimination? Then why are they still monopolizing the pipelines and the freezer? Bingo Express. CEO Cha Min says there is no monopolization at all. He uses Bingo. Bingo is under freezer control. What did he just say? Our group, Chairman Huran, said we are not complacent. The citizens are watching live. After all, but he was an anchor on TV. Such turmoil. You need someone to whom you can hand over the right to manage the pipelines. Handing the pipeline to the wrong person could spawn another blue blood. Human greed has the ability to bring back to life abandoned honeybee practices. One should always be on the lookout. Desert outside the streets. Someone resented someone asking for 11,000 yulwei for a liter of gasoline. Is she kidding? She knows it costs a lot less. Judging by her clothes, she's not from around here, so how would she know their prices? Rod Gill said he felt better if Kadia went, unless you want to be her slave. Mechanical arm. I think he's come to the right place. Trendy neighborhood. From this day forward, the trendy neighborhood is theirs. They're gonna shake the place up. Let him kill anyone who stops him. That's when the guy noticed his clone. He lost again. Somehow it didn't feel like he was winning. He asked Rai, or should he request reinforcements? But she said she shouldn't. She can do it alone. So the reward fell into her hands. Not bad for a gatekeeper. The girl said she wasn't scary. Mr. ACI was asked if they had time tonight. What time of night is another bandit attack planned? but she said that's not what she meant. There's a pretty good restaurant opening up in the neighborhood. Maybe they could go there together for dinner. He said he was working tonight. She hit him right away. After hitting her, she said they weren't going out to dinner. Not long ago they lost to a strumpet farmer. Now a woman. Of course, they were not happy about it. A school in a trendy neighborhood. He was the first. And no, he was the last one. The teacher was late, although she herself excused herself for being an hour late because of extra classes. The boy didn't understand why he had to teach little Tae-shin. He was going to be a runner, so he didn't need that, but he couldn't find a job. That day everyone was gathered, but the guy wondered why just them. He heard that there will be additional classes for different grades in middle school and elementary school. Another extra class awaited them. Teacher Panda greeted the children. She asked if they missed her. However, she was teaching high school, and it was unclear why she was there for extra classes. He was just accompanying a new teacher who came to this muddy neighborhood. The guy asked if it was a girl, to which she replied that she wished he had the same reaction to her. The girl claimed that she didn't like ants like her and that those words had been true for 3 years. The teacher said it was a man, but he wasn't interested in how the group felt about the new teacher. Teacher Panda asked if it was true and informed Kim that they would be out of here. Ha-jin said he was not interested in the man. Everyone was very surprised to hear that name. They really couldn't believe it was Kim they were talking about. The girl immediately stood up and walked out from behind her desk. Then all the children ran to the teacher. Of course they were happy he was alive. He sought him out, even though they weren't particularly close. He wondered if it was for the deal or something else. The principal told him to gather all his abilities. He realized that if he gave them up, he would turn into a regular old man. One bullet could have ended his life. He remembered the day they had first met. Of course he did. He hurt his desire to protect his family and ripped those abilities away from him, believing him to be a funny young man in a mask who was just fooling around, not realizing that he would become a rebel. These abilities originally belonged to him. Now she had a new family to protect, but he was too old to protect anyone with those powers. Like the devil, he had no pity in him, and since this was his first deal with someone with superpowers, he was more lenient. What did he really want? If he died and his family was in danger, he hoped he would be given a chance. He asked to be given a chance. However, the wording of the terms of the contract was too vague. He wondered if he was satisfied now. Red mask.